accident, you know it's no walk in the park. Car repairs, medical bills, and lost time from work all add up. And if the insurance company isn't paying their fair share, you have to cover the rest, even if it wasn't your fault. That's why you need an advocate. Call us today, and we'll do everything we can to get you moving again. Come on.
You deserve clear, risk-free advice to help get you back on your feet. You deserve an advocate.
This is The Monty Show, the truth in sports talk streaming. When you want unbiased opinions about your favorite team without the spin, all you have to do is find The Monty Show, streaming live and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on YouTube. And now, here's Monty.
Hey, happy Thursday, September 26, 2024. On The Monty Show, as always, we are presented by The Advocates, theadvocates.com. Clear, risk-free advice. That's what you get. And you get it without ever reaching into your pocket to scratch a check, because you don't pay The Advocates unless and until they win your case. You can chat with an injury attorney live online for free. It won't cost you a dime. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And I'll tell you, you get hurt at work, you get involved in a car accident. We are having a renaissance of summer this week here in the great Mountain West. If you're out on your bicycle, if somebody body slams you on the golf course, wait for the non-sports stories of the day today. Some bro got so upset that he forced the guy that cut in front of him on the golf course to call the Advocates. I don't know if he did or not. He probably should have, though. If you get injured playing golf, call the Advocates, where you never pay the Advocates unless and until they win your case. Make sure you tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. I know you're going to find this hard to believe. I know you are going to find this hard to believe. There is another Pac-12 expansion. Mountain West is dead update. And it turns out UNLV and Air Force are staying in the Mountain West, according to multiple sources. What did we tell you yesterday on the show? Not only that we're smart, not only that we're good looking, but that UNLV was staying in the Mountain West because they were going to get a $25 million bonus payment to stay in the Mountain West. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, reporting that UNLV is getting a $25 million bonus payment to stay in the Mountain West, which ultimately is the tipping point in this entire conversation. I think this is the only way forward for the Mountain West. They had no choice but to sell out and do everything they could do to keep UNLV and Air Force, because let's be brutally honest about where the Mountain West is right now. The Mountain West is teetering on the edge of that cliff where if they'd have lost even one more member, Air Force on their own, or certainly UNLV on their own, this conference would have been dead on arrival. You would have been playing out the string in the Mountain West for the next 2 seasons, and the Pac-12 would be growing into the singular behemoth of the G5. But now there are more questions about the relevance and the sustainability of the Pac-12 than the Mountain West, because UNLV and Air Force are staying in the Mountain West. And Jake, I think the single biggest question here is, how valuable do you think the Las Vegas market is to either one of these conferences?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's crucial to both of their existences. I think, for the Pac-12, you're trying to add brands, and, you're trying to grow your market, and you're trying to, grow your footprint. And so obviously Las Vegas as a West Coast brand is going to be crucial to that effort. For the Mountain West, I think Las Vegas has been crucial to what they've been doing since the inception of the conference. I think Las Vegas is pretty much your biggest market in the conference, even before, all of these teams left for the Pac-12, and now becomes one of your most important markets, because ultimately, keeping UNLV, allows you to say, hey, we have this big market in Las Vegas. We have a lot of other markets around that can support it from a conference perspective. And I just think that, ultimately, I think more than market size and geographic footprint for the Mountain West, keeping UNLV on premise alone is a huge win. And yeah, you had to pay him. Yeah, you had to, get that worked out, but you got the job done. And I think Gloria Nevarez, deserves a lot of credit for that. As the commissioner of the Mountain West, this is a turbulent time. This is a rocky time right now, and you're earning your paycheck now as a commissioner. You know, there are a lot of times as a commissioner of a football conference or an athletic conference where, you know, it's easy, right? You're just going to football games, you're kissing babies, shaking hands, you know, you're doing commissioner things. But then other times, you know, realignment's happening, expansion is happening for other conferences, and you have to really right the ship and guide your conference through tough times. And I think Gloria has done that. So how important is UNLV in the Las Vegas market to the Mountain West? It's crucial to your survival. And I think she's done a great job of keeping that brand in the conference.
Yeah, and I think this fight, and we're going to talk about the court side of this in a minute, but I think this fight that we're seeing in the Pac-12 in the Mountain West is that big word that we love to use on this show. It's an existential crisis for both of these conferences, because what you have here is UNLV and Air Force essentially saying, we'll take the $25 million bonus, not to turn our lives upside down. That's basically what you're saying. And I think this now leaves the Pac-12 with very few places to turn for relevance, because you were not able to lure anybody from the AAC. You were not able to lure UNLV and Air Force from the Mountain West. And now you find yourself pinning all of your hopes and dreams to this lawsuit. And I think it's very interesting, this argument about what would make the Pac-12 more attractive than the Mountain West or the AAC. And I think outside of that, you know, mythical power designation and doing everything that you could do to guarantee an AQ, I just don't think there's that much to hold on to in the Pac-12 certainly not over the AAC.
Right.
And I don't believe that you are in a better place. And I'll look at Boise and San Diego State. I think the two premier brands that left the Mountain West to go to the Pac-12. Can you really say this morning that San Diego State and Boise State are in a better position today than they were the day before they left the Mountain West?
No.
I don't think you can say that, because now there are real questions about what the Pac-12 can do here, because your only option is to go to the FCS level. That's your only option. And if Sacramento State, I was told yesterday by people in Sacramento that Sac State is ready, willing, and able to pay that $5 million. There is a fee that you have to pay. If you want to go from 1AA FCS to FBS, which is the big boys of college football, if you want to do that to join the Pac-12, it's $5 million.
Well, Monty, $5 million is nothing to these schools. Well, it is at the FCS level. That's a huge
It's
payment.
a huge amount of money. And Sac State does have the unique infrastructure to do so. You're in a great market with great fans. And Sacramento is such a beautiful place. It is such a in my opinion, one of the thriving metropolises left in California. As much struggle and strife as Northern California has faced, Sacramento is doing well. And you look at the fan base that supports, for instance, the Sacramento Kings. If you elevate Sac State into a G5, I do believe the community would support them. Truly, I believe that Sacramento would support Sac State at a much higher level than they have in irrelevance, in my opinion, in the FCS. So I do think Sacramento State is one of those few schools that can't afford it, but that's only going to get you to 8. And I think you need a minimum of 10 to really make the case that you are the best G5 conference. And I don't know where that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I do not.
Yeah, well, and I think that's what's put the Pac-12 in such a tough position here. And I think, you know, it's been brought up briefly, and we briefly discussed it this week, this proposition of, hey, well, what if the Pac-12 doesn't work out? Like, what if, you know, these schools committed to joining, but they can't add enough members and it kind of flames? You know, do these schools inevitably face the proposition of going back to the Mountain West at a steep discount? What does that look like? And I think that's what you would be talking about. But ultimately, you know, this has been my point about like San Diego State and Boise State being so out there. Because remember what happened before the Pac-12 expansion thing took place. We had J.D. Wicker talking about why they didn't want to go to the Big 12. We had JD Wicker putting out statements about how like, oh yeah, like we're trying to get into the Pac-12 and we didn't want to go to the Big 12 and we valued the Pac-12 way more. And so then the next day, all this whole storm of expansion and we're adding these schools came out. So I just think that these schools were really like high on their horse about making this move. And again, I really do feel like you made that decision based on something that wasn't 100% solid. I mean, there's no guarantees that this conference is going to fully pan out and climb back to relevancy. There's no guarantees that you're, going to get into the college football playoff with any regularity or even breaking it down further. There's no guarantees you're going to make more money. And that's what is so shocking to me about the whole thing.
Yeah. And I think that it is, it's important to go back to the beginning on this. And I think Scott Barnes, the athletic director at Oregon State, again, plays a critical role here. He is a very important figure in the Pac-12. He is a power broker there. His word carries a lot of weight. And this idea that he's been committed only to the Pac-12 is simply just, from what I am told, not the case. He absolutely reached out to the Big Ten. He reached out to the Big 12 when the Pac-12 melted down. I am told weeks ago he reached out during the summer to the Big 12 to try and explore Big 12 membership for Oregon State. That did not work out. And then when UConn and the Big 12 were undressed in public about their merger talks and bringing the UConn basketball program and athletics, everything outside of football, to the Big 12, that kind of is what spurred the Pac-2 to get into action here and get very serious about going after the Mountain West. And that brings us to the court case, because I also think that there is this belief somehow that the Mountain West, perpetrated some great legal fraud against the Pac-12. And we've done a lot of work in the last 24 hours to fully understand the language and the verbiage that is in the complaint filed by the Pac-12 against the Mountain West. And they're not arguing duress. And I think this is a really important part of this conversation. Having read now and having talked to legal people who have read the filing from the Pac-12 against the Mountain West, it would almost be impossible now for the Pac-12 to turn and claim duress, which, hey, we were under the gun, we were emotional, we were not in our right mindset, that there was some exterior force, applying pressure to the Pac-12, and they had no other choice but doom to sign this agreement.
Right.
Where, hey, we're going to do a scheduling alliance, and if you poach our members, you're going to pay us $10 million per member. That's not what the Pac-12 is arguing. What the Pac-12 is arguing is that it is an interruption of free and fair trade to put these poaching penalties and exit fees in a contract, which makes that contract null and void. That's what the Pac-12 is arguing. Funny, who else is arguing that exact same thing? Florida State and Clemson against the ACC. And how has that worked out for Florida State and Clemson? Well, it hasn't. Because when you, in all right mind, in the absence of duress, and I think that's a really important term here, because as it was explained to me by a really good contract attorney yesterday, in the absence of duress, if you are arguing the validity of a contract based on the contents and the terms of that contract, and your argument is that this exit fee of $10 million or the poaching fee of $10 million, in totality, the $150 million that you would supposedly owe if you are the Pac-12 and the exiting members of the Mountain West, if you're saying that that has blocked the ability of other members to leave the conference, you're going to have to, in some form or fashion, find a way and make an argument that this is not fair trade, that this violates long-held federal statutes and contract law. And the biggest issue is there's no precedent that says poaching fees and exit fees violate free and fair trade. And the argument that the Pac-12 is making is that this poaching fee and these exit fees violate the Sherman Antitrust Act, which there's no precedent in any athletic endeavor that the Sherman Antitrust Act has been leveraged to get people out of paying terms of a contract in professional sports. That's never happened. And the other part of this that I think is so important, again, it was negotiated. It was between two parties who had an agreement in place and then negotiated further terms of that agreement. And those further terms were put in place to protect the Mountain West, in this case, against the exact actions of the Pac-12. So you can't both be an actor and the plaintiff and expect to win. And I think that's the single biggest issue here. Florida State and Clemson have, on some level, created a precedent that the Mountain West, should that Florida State ACC case either be adjudicated to its end, which means a judge rules, or should that case be settled, the Pac-12 is going to find itself in a very difficult position to make the argument that this poaching fee agreement and contract violates the Sherman Antitrust Act, because simply they won't have precedent and they won't be able to argue duress. I think it makes it, Jake, very implausible that the Pac-12 is going to defeat the Mountain West in this case.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that, it's perfectly said. And I think that, defeating the Mountain West in this case is just not a fight that you have legs with. And I think, all the reasons you laid out there are spot on. And again, it's exactly what I said when this suit first came out. This is a case of basic ass contract law. Hey, you got a piece of paper out. You wrote down the terms that you were agreeing to. You both signed it. And now that you don't like it, you're trying to sue your way out of it. It's as simple and as archaic as it gets, man. I mean, this isn't, we're not talking about ESPN here. We're not talking about, some big company. It's the leadership of the Pac-2 at that time when this was done. The Pac-2 going to Gloria Nevarez in that conference, and those two hammering out details for a scheduling alliance. And as part of that, the Mountain West and Gloria Nevarez, give her credit, put in these poaching fees because they knew what was likely. And
I think that's very true.
Here we are. And I'm just telling you, it's a very tired, very, worn out strategy to try to sue your way out of this. And I also would point out, just like I did with Florida State, this is an awful look for, Scott Barnes and company. Not just Scott Barnes on his own, the commissioner of the Pac-12. I still believe, even though Kirk Schultz is retiring, he's still right in the middle of this thing. I think the guy loves to sit at a table and pontificate about how the Pac-12 is amazing and they deserve this and that when they haven't deserved anything and they haven't earned anything. And I think that's the problem here. You thought that you could just go in and set fire to the Mountain West house and take all these teams, and you thought they weren't going to do anything about it because somehow you were the bigger guy in the room. And you said this the other day, and I think it's spot on. The Pac-12 is not the bigger person in the room. The Pac-12 is not a bigger brand than the Mountain West.
Correct.
And that's something that I think
at least not yet.
Yeah, not yet. And I think that not yet part doesn't turn into they are for a long time, because I don't know who you're going to add.
And let me show you this definition, the legal definition of duress from NYU law. Duress refers to a situation where one person makes an unlawful threat or otherwise engages in coercive behavior that causes another person to commit acts that they would otherwise not commit. And I think that last sentence, forces that causes another person to commit acts that they would otherwise not commit.
Yeah.
The crux of this argument with the Pac-12 is, well, we're not telling you that we're not going to take your members. We don't want to pay you penalties if and when we take your members. Duress simply doesn't exist here. And I bring this up so pointedly because, it must be 40, 50 comments in the comments section over the last 2 days since this suit was filed. And really yesterday, since we talked about this on the show, Duress simply does not exist here. And I would encourage you, do what I did. I just reached out to my sphere of influence. I reached out to people I know that are qualified contract legal minds. And I talked to 3 different people who told me the exact same thing. Now, they would have to expressly argue that that the Mountain West put them in a situation of duress, that they threatened them, that they
would need like evidence to show that there was actual duress.
And they would have to make that as the argument. They're not. They're making an antitrust argument against the Mountain West.
Which, again, I still think is a pretty weak argument because, again, you're not talking about, hey, like I couldn't acquire something because, this company has, control over the entire market, or like that's not what we're talking about here. You're trying to make an antitrust claim when we're just sitting here talking about, again, basic contract law. And it's one of my favorite portions of the legal system is contract law because it's very simple. Hey, were you under duress or not? Well, very clearly you were not, because again, if we think about the parameters or the situation, the factors that went into creating this contract, where were we in the conversation? Hey, we were at UConn in the Big 12. We're doing their thing. And, well before that was announced, the Pac-12 was clearly trying to figure out what is our way back. And they decided, hey, our best way back is to do a scheduling alliance with the Mountain West. So let's go ahead and reach out. So you initiated the contact here. You initiated this process.
Yes.
Like, it's not like the Mountain West most certainly did not go to the Pac-2 and say, hey, here's a life raft. Let's go ahead and do like they didn't do that. And that's not how it works.
This from Cornell law. This is the definition of the Sherman Antitrust Act. And I think this is I know this is the argument that the Pac-12 is going to make in court, because this is what they said in their filing. The Sherman Antitrust Act, and note the highlighted section I have for you, prohibits activities that restrict interstate commerce and competition in the marketplace. It outlaws any contract, conspiracy, or combination of business interests in restraint of foreign or interstate trade. And what the Pac-12 is arguing is that these exit fees and these poaching penalties restrict other members and itself from operating on their business level. It interrupts their ability to operate as a business, because the Mountain West has a grant of right in a charter that forces members to pay an exit fee if they want to go to the Pac-12.
Well,
that is the argument. Now, here's the problem.
Yeah.
As I told you before, because most contract law is won and lost on precedent or previous rulings, previous judgments. Well, what happened in the Pac-12's previous case? As I mentioned yesterday, who's the Pac-12's biggest enemy here?
Yeah.
Well, the Pac-12. Because what did the judge rule? The exiting 10 members have no vote, have no voice, because they exited the conference. He did not rule, as the exiting 10 members tried to get him to rule, that, hey, we're members and we still have a voice until such date. And what ultimately did the Pac-2 and the exiting 10 use this? And I'll call it what it was described to me as yesterday. What is this lawsuit that the Pac-12 has filed? It's an instrument. It's a tool for negotiations. That's what this is. I don't believe the Pac-12, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the contract lawyers I spoke to, nobody believes that they think they can win that lawsuit.
Yeah, well, and I also think, again, it goes back to this concept of who are you talking to? I mean, do you not understand your place in the room? Like, you're trying to bulldog the Mountain West, and I understand the Mountain West isn't the SEC or the Big Ten, but the Mountain West, in my opinion, has been the best G5 conference for some time. I mean, and I think when you look at Gloria Nevarez's, arc and path to this point, like, this is not someone who's new to this game.
No,
she's been in this game a long time, and I think that the other part of what we were talking about there with precedent that I think is is going to really hurt the Pac-12's argument here is that exit fees and grants of rights and those type of contracts are all boilerplate. That's what everybody does. That's how we do business right now in college football. Hey, there's this group of schools is going to get together and grant their rights to the conference, in this case, the Mountain West. And as part of that process, there's going to be an exit fee, because when there's three parties involved, right? You've got the schools, you've got the conference, and then you've got, in this case, CBS Sports or, the CW or, your different TV part. You got to have this stuff laid out. So the idea that you would go to court,
100%.
and, the idea you go to court and you would argue, hey, well, having an exit fee or having this contract set up the way it's set up is an antitrust violation, just is poor legal work, in my opinion. That's not like, what do you mean it's poor contracting? That's the way it works. So that's why I say, like, I agree. The Pac-12's biggest enemy is now and has always been the Pac-12. Whether it was, we take this thing all the way back to, hey, how you were spending your money and the funds and the lack of business acumen, all the way to, hey, like, we don't understand why getting a deal done that is a majority of streaming and less cable would be actually a really cool thing. We could be on the forefront and we can make money that way, and we could kind of change the landscape. Those schools that are now in the Big 10 and the Big 12 were unwilling to get on board with that. And so I just think that this conference, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the Pacific Ocean breeze or the air they breathe. Like, I don't know if it's something they eat out there, but like, they just can't get out of their own way.
And I think the hard part here is that no matter what happens here, and let's say that the Pac-12 and the Mountain West both exist, this is devastating to the Mountain West. And the argument that the Mountain West is going to make in defense, in my opinion, is, hey, you signed a contract, then you turned around, you took our biggest football brands, and you did real damage to the Mountain West Conference, which is why in the first place we put these legal contracts in place to protect ourselves, which is what contracts do. They spell out, your entitlements. Essentially, hey, you can do this and you can't do that. Sign on the dotted line, right? And you did real damage. You look at what Boise State represents, and Fresno State in near term has represented to the Mountain West. Those are your best football programs in recent years. And really, Boise State throughout the years.
Yeah.
It's really damaging. And I think that's what the Mountain West is going to use as a defense. And again, I don't believe the Pac-12 thinks they can win this case. I think the Pac-12 simply is doing what savvy business people do, which is, oh, you won't come to the table and negotiate these exit fees? Here, let me force you in the mediation.
Well,
because my guess is the judge is going to put this into mediation.
Again, like, I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's clearly a tactic they're trying to use, but I'm a big believer that no matter how you want to go about it, right? Like, if you want to force someone's hand through suing them, let's say, or creating a lawsuit, if there's another leverage play, it doesn't matter how you go about it or the why behind it, unless you have the hammer. If you have the hammer, if the Pac-12 was in a position to say, hey, yeah, if you don't give us UNLV, we're going to end your conference, right? If you don't give us this, we're going to do that. But that's very clearly not the position the Pac-12 is in.
Very clearly.
And so the idea that, again, it just stands out to me so much that the Pac-12 thinks that they can come in here with a lawsuit, and that's going to compel Gloria and company to acquiesce or to give them, because I think ultimately the point of this is clearly to get a discount. I don't think anybody in the room thinks that you're just not going to pay any fees.
Well, because understand, and that's an excellent point. Understand what this does. Filing this lawsuit only extends and elongates a timeline of paying those fees and paying UNLV their $25 million bonus. Because I also think what the Pac-12 would like to do here beyond the money savings is shorten the timeline. I think they would like to have those members join their conference next summer. And if you're able to accomplish that, because understand where you are right now, you got to play the 25 and the 26 season. So that's a long time where you are just two teams and you're trying to figure out where you're going to schedule games.
Oh, it's a long time to not be making money.
So I think what you're trying to do here, and this is the biggest question, what you're trying to do here is shorten the timeline and shorten your financial exposure to those fees, the exit fees and the poaching penalties. Because I also think you've got to get a media rights deal done.
Absolutely.
And if it is what we think it is, which I'm pretty certain that it is the CW and Amazon Prime Sports, you really need to get those deals done because those people are at the table now. And I do think that there is real value depending on where you end up membership-wise. Because my opinion is you've got to go to the Sun Belt and get Texas State. If you're the Pac-12 or you're the Mountain West, my belief is you better get your ass down to San Marcos, Texas.
Yes.
You know, that little enclave between Austin and San Antonio?
Yes.
You got to get down to Texas State in my opinion. And you've got to go and get that because I don't see any way that either one of these conferences survives without a foothold in Texas.
Yeah, well, I just think, any major conference has to have a presence there. And I think that, it's been interesting to see, the Big 12's, or I'm sorry, the Big 10's ascension without a major nameplate there. Clearly, the Big 10 has done a great job of ascending with what they have. But I think that's why the SEC went after Texas and OU so hard. And I think that, again, I'm just saying if I'm the Pac-12 and I want to get this done faster, the way to do that is not by suing. The way to do that is by bringing equity to the table for the Mountain West and saying, okay, hey, we understand that this move that we just perpetrated against you really hurt the Mountain West brand. We get that. We acknowledge that. But here's what we think we could do together to find a solution. And that's what I think the Pac-12's issue is they're looking at this as us versus you versus, hey, how can we consolidate and make this better for everyone?
Because that's what they should have done.
Yeah.
They should have merged. I don't think that happens now. I'll go back to what my prediction was for the Mountain West 2-3 weeks ago. You got to pick up the phone and call Conference USA.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where I would go because I also look at Conference USA and there's two brands in Conference USA that make a hell of a lot of sense for both of these conferences, UTEP and New Mexico State. Because if you think about travel cost and infrastructure cost, that's a huge part of this conversation. Neither one of these conferences is getting $25, $30, $40 million a year per school in media rights deals. That's not happening.
Right.
If you figure that the top of the mountain for either one of these conferences is $10 million, you're talking about UTEP and New Mexico State. And I think in Conference USA, you look at the brands in Conference USA right now, it's kind of torn and tattered. Liberty, which is in Virginia. You look at Sam Houston, Western Kentucky, Louisiana Tech, Florida International, Jackson State, like Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State, which is up and coming, awesome facilities at Kennesaw State, Middle Tennessee, UTEP, and New Mexico State.
Right.
I think there's a lot of brands in that conference that makes sense for the Mountain West.
But isn't there some of this dynamic too? Like, if you're these G5 conferences, right? Like if you're the American Conference USA,
look at the Sun Belt,
Sun Belt, right? Like if you look at these conferences, are leadership from these conferences not getting together and saying, hey, like, why are we allowing the Pac-12 to come in here and poach teams? Why wouldn't we just get together, basically blacklist the Pac-12, keep them out, keep them away and let them figure that out and keep our system the way it is. Because if you think about it, and again, this is why I brought this up, like if the Pac-12 flames, and I do think they'll get to 8, I think getting to 10 at this point is kind of a stretch. I don't know how, like, some things are going to have to change if you want to get to 10 teams in the Pac-12.
I don't know how
But like if the Pac-12 struggles to get to 8, if you're the rest of these conferences in the group of 5, are you not sitting here saying, man, like, look what they did to the Mountain West. We can't have that happen here in Conference USA. We can't have this happen in the American. We're gonna batten down the hatches, and we're gonna make sure that our system stays intact. And then what we're gonna do in addition to that is we're gonna create a college football playoff for the G5, and we're basically gonna say, okay, cool. we're going to make more money and we're going to exclude those guys and force them to come back to the table. That's what needs to happen.
It's interesting. I was talking to a TV guy yesterday about this, and I think this particular person made a really good point. You've got to give the Pac-12 credit for swinging for the fences, and they did. With their raid of the Mountain West, they turned around and then tried to raid the AAC for the biggest brands in both conferences, which would have made a significantly stronger G5 conference. If you'd have got USF, Memphis, and Tulane, and added that to Boise and San Diego State and Fresno State, you're cooking with gas at that point. But you missed. And nobody remembers Aaron Judge swinging and missing.
Yeah.
They remember the bombs he hit. And that, to me, is one of the best analogies I have heard in this entire thing. Because now I don't think the Pac-12 can recover from swinging and missing on the AAC. And now overnight finding out, UNLV and Air Force, they're not going either. That is a really damaging blow, and it's going to be fascinating to see how it all plays out. Enough of us. More of you on the Monty Show. The comment section, as always, is presented by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the app. The best daily fantasy app in the business. And I tell you guys every day, I have a problem. I love Prize Picks to death.
Right.
I'm a big Prize Picks fan.
A prize picker.
I'm a big picker of the prizes.
Right.
I would, again, tell you that they have the best daily fantasy promo I've ever seen. You deposit $5 in a new account at Prize Picks, they'll give you 50 more. Download the app, use the promo code Monty. You deposit $5 in a new account, they'll give you 50 more. I sank to a new low last night. And I am nude, naked, standing before you.
Sorry, nude, naked?
Standing before you, confessing my insecurities. Confessing my weaknesses for Shohei Ohtani.
The great gambler.
Who the other night noticed my nudity, and that's why he was on deck when the Dodgers grounded into a game-ending triple play. And all I needed was one more hit, run, or RBI from him.
I'm listening to an interview yesterday. They straight up are talking about, why didn't you just have Buddy bunt to ensure that Ohtani would get the plate appearance?
Because that way Uncle Monty doesn't win Prize Picks, boy. So last night, of course, I went back to Aaron Judge.
Right.
No, I actually didn't. I went to Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
Do you guys think I won? Caitlin Clark on assists, Shohei Ohtani on hits, runs, and RBIs, and Juan Soto on hits, runs, and RBIs. Win or loss?
I mean, that sounds like a win. But
you goddamn right it's a win.
Right.
Caitlin Clark, 8 assists. She had 9. Shohei Ohtani on a demon. Not only did I not take him, and a demon means it's more difficult to win. Not only did I not take him straight across, I took a demon. 2.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. He had 5.
Right.
Juan Soto, who should still to this day have been a Chicago Cub and is not. You prick. Juan Soto, 1.5 hits, runs, and RBIs. He had 7. Your boy's a winner.
Not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, but 7.
$70 into the Monty Prize Picks account. You guys, it's not difficult. Use my formula. I win. I've won 4 out of my last 5 non-football plays.
You got the President's Cup going on right now.
Yep. So we're gonna be winning over the weekend here. Get on board. You deposit $5 in a new Prize Picks account, they'll give you 50 more. Hook it up. Use a promo code Monty MONTY to download the Prize Picks app. Click the link in the description below. Hello, Twitter, Facebook. YouTube, if you are not watching on YouTube right now, come on over. Come on.
Hit the like button.
Come on over. Subscribe. Hit the like button. And then click the link in the description on our YouTube channel to download the Prize Picks app, or just use the promo code Monty. All right. Who's first in this morning? How about Calford? Let's go. 5, 10, 15, and 20 Monty Show membership.
Okay.
Single-handedly powering the Marty program. The real Pete Forte with not 5, but 10 Monty Show.
Let's go, Pete.
Pete, appreciate you. Calford, as always appreciate you. The Ukrainian mail order bride industry is booming. Still legendary. For $5. So I guess the Pac-12 can still add New Mexico State, Texas State, Montana State, Missouri State, and Arkansas State. They can try.
Schools.
They can become the state school G5.
Right.
I think Texas State's a huge ad here. I think on this show I have professed my love of San Antonio. And if you don't know where San Marcos, Texas is, it is south and west of Austin and north and east of San Antonio. I think it is a phenomenal institution. Their sports are really strong right now. I think it's a big ad. And if you look at Conference USA right now, there's a lot of value in UTEP as well. The state of Texas, I think, is available. And I think geographically speaking, if you got Texas State, if you got UTEP, New Mexico State, that's a pretty good basketball road trip, in my opinion. And if you're able to do that, and you're able to make the case that, hey, you should join our conference. Come on over, join our conference. I think it's going to be tough because what the Pac-12 has, and I don't understand it, but what the Pac-12 has is this mythical aura about it where, oh my God, it's the Pac-12. Does the Pac-12 brand still have cachet in your opinion?
I wouldn't say that. I think that in my opinion, I firmly believe that they sold those initial ads, mainly Boise State and San Diego State, on a dream. I think you sold them on, hey, you guys are clearly the class of the Mountain West, come join our conference.
We're going to get the class of the AAC.
Yeah, we're going to get the class of the AAC. And then, we're, you guys being as good as you are, you're going to have that last G5, highest ranked conference champion G5 spot for the college football playoff.
We're going to get Utah State and Logan, Utah, and the Department of Justice to join the conference as well.
And we're going to put out a graphic when we do it celebrating it. And, it's going to be great. And I think that's why you should join our conference.
I think they did sell a dream. I think that is the exact right way to say that.
Yeah.
And I think it's very...
And I think
it's very much turned into, you guys ready? It's very much turned into a nightmare.
So see what he did there. That was dreams and nightmares and,
juxtaposed.
It's all, it all works
existential,
together.
Let's be real here. If the Pac-12 offers Hawaii, San Jose State, and Texas State tomorrow, I don't believe that Hawaii is of value. I think it is expensive to fly your football team. And I'm pretty certain that Hawaii is only in the Mountain West in football. But it's really expensive to fly your football team because, remember, you can't truck your equipment. I know you guys might know this. There's no highway to Hawaii. You've got to, get on an aeroplane and fly yourself to Honolulu.
Right.
It's expensive to fly a football team to Honolulu.
But I think more to the point in this comment, what makes you so sure that those schools would just jump at it? Because I'm not convinced. I got to be honest with you, man. Like I'm more convinced that it's a huge question mark. You're basically, what you're doing is you're assessing risk. You're saying, hey, what's the lower risk play here for us? Is it staying in the American or going to the Pac-12? Like,
again, I'll steal a line from a guy I talked to yesterday, very close to this situation. What are we getting that we don't already have if we join the Pac-12?
Yeah.
Very simple question.
It's not rocket science, bro.
In the Pac-12 that we don't already have in the Mountain West or the Sun Belt or...
Oh, I know what you're getting. Oh, that's right. A lot more reliability issues.
Legal fees. Expenses.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting that you don't have now. And who has inflicted legal fees on the Mountain West here? The Pac-12. Who has created the instability in the Mountain West? The Pac-12. And if you don't think that there is going to be animosity towards the Pac-12 from people like the Sun Belt, the AAC, because don't get it wrong. the Sun Belt, Conference USA, the Missouri Valley, the Big East, they're all closing ranks. They're all they're in a defensive posture right now. The drawbridge is up. It is not down in all these conferences. They are ready for battle.
Yeah.
And the Mountain West, the very fact that they have survived this initial onslaught from the Pac-12 speaks volumes not about the Mountain West, but about the weakness in what they do not have to offer in the Pac-12. A TV deal, namely, because you talk about selling a dream. That's all you're selling in a TV deal.
Yeah.
And the comment section yesterday, 3-4 guys were saying, well, they have a TV deal now. They'll get another one. Well, isn't that what they were selling 18 months ago now, or a year ago now, excuse me, when this conference melted down? Well, we're going to get a $50 million per school a year TV deal.
Y'all remember, we're going to get the biggest TV deal that college football's seen. That was the ask. Hey, we want $400 a year. That's what they were asking for initially. And that's what started insulting TV industry professionals, is when Kliavkoff came with that number. And that's just not, I'm telling you, it is the arrogance it takes to say, oh, we have one now, so that means we're just going to get another one, is insane. Because if you think that, or if you feel that way, you don't understand that, hey, the landscape is changing, man. Like the money that's sitting in the coffers 100%. At ESPN and Fox and CBS and NBC. Like look at how the face of broadcasting has changed. Like now ESPN is the home of the SEC, not CBS, right? Like think about the way all of this is changing for better and for worse. So the idea that you think that TV deals are just like, oh yeah, we got one now, we can go get another one. That's crazy, man. And
I think it is very much, it's a value play at this point. And I think you're exactly right. The never-ending fountain of cash out of the TV deals is over. That's not the case anymore. The Big Ten deal was a unicorn. It was not the new normal. It was a unicorn. And I truly believe the way that the SEC is doing business, please don't lose your mind because I said something nice about the SEC.
Well,
how dare
SEC
you?
Show.
How dare you, Marty? Marty, we believed in you, and then you talk nice about Greg Skanky. The business model that the SEC has put forward, and I think largely taken from the Big 12 now, don't pay us $100 million per school. Help us make $100 million per school.
Yes.
Be part of our revenue-generating solution. Hey, pick your huge oil company. Hey, ExxonMobil. Why don't you come and put your logo on all of our fields? And ESPN's going to give you a 25% discount on TV spots during Big 12 football games. Hey, that Georgia Alabama game. Why don't we have it presented by Coca-Cola? You pay us $100 million. And that's going to include, your Coca-Cola is the presenting sponsor on ESPN and ABC and ESPN Plus. That's the deal. Those are the deals being made. The partnerships. And again, as much as I say nice things about the SEC, I know you all hate when I say nice things about ESPN, but what does the Big 12 and the SEC have now? They have a really powerful partner in ABC and ESPN and Disney, because they can leverage that relationship as BYU did to get into the Big 12. They can leverage that relationship now to say, hey, Dr. Pepper, why don't you be everything that happens in Kansas City during the basketball tournament? Or why don't you be everything that happens in Tarrant County for our Big 12 championship game?
Yeah, and I think ESPN values that relationship too, like the ability to do that.
And those Dr. Pepper commercials that you guys run, you're going to get a 17% discount from ESPN for that.
Yeah.
Because we're all partners. That's the business model. So what the Pac-12 has to wrap its head around is, well, we didn't get Las Vegas, and we didn't get the state of Texas, and we didn't get the state of Florida, and we didn't get Memphis. So we don't have 4 time zones. Because what does Brett Yormark have? Well, he's got West Virginia, and he's got the state of Florida, and he's got the state of Texas, and he's got the state of Utah. Like he's got a really nice spread across the country. He's got all the time zones. He's winning. That's what he's got. He's winning. And to me, that's what the Pac-12 has to build. And if you're not going to build that, you better put together a package that includes the state of Texas. I think it's critical. It has to happen.
Yep.
Harry Austin for $5. To me, the question is, could you see Boise State, San Diego State, CSU, and Fresno walk back?
Yeah, at a steep discount.
I don't think that happens.
Well, I think that it may not happen now, but let's say that you add Texas State or whatever, a brand out of Texas to get to 8, and then the TV deal is lackluster. Let's say that the demand in the market from TV partners is not great. Like it just is kind of a mediocre TV deal. And now the schools in the Pac-12 are like, hey, what the hell? You promised us X and now you're giving us Y. And now we look like idiots because we left a better situation. Like that can't happen if you're the Pac-12. And I feel like right now, where we stand today, the odds of that happening are 50-50. I think I'm not convinced that just going to the CW and Prime is going to make you the type of money that makes it worthwhile. Because think about like anytime we're saying things like, hey, does it make it worthwhile for Boise State? That's not an X's and O's conversation. That's an emotional based like, hey, do we feel good about what we're doing conversation? And I just think that that's different depending on who you ask.
I think it is different depending on who you ask.
Yeah, I mean, that answer is going to be different for Wickerville than it is for Boise State. Yeah.
J.D. Wicker, the athletic director at San Diego State, by the way. Wickerville.
Hey, you like that?
I actually do. Ukrainian mail order bride industry is booming for $5. The best schools Pac-12 could get at this point. The best schools, reading comprehension, Pac-12 could get at this point are North Texas, Tulsa, Texas State, UTEP, and New Mexico State. I think Tulsa's not bad. I think Texas State is very interesting. And I'll continue to say, I think logically planned travel matters. So sure, I could see Tulsa mattering, but Tulsa has been non-existent in football. And I think you have to find programs that can win football games and bring you value, because I don't think unless it's I could see the argument that like San Jose State, who's probably the smallest brand in the Mountain West, I could see the argument, well, if they get San Jose State, they cripple the Mountain West. I agree with that. That's the only reason you would take San Jose State, because they certainly do not bring you the Bay Area. They do not deliver San Jose. They do not deliver the South Bay. They don't.
Yeah.
But they do serve a purpose in crippling the Mountain West Conference.
Which, again, has been your, I hate to say this because I feel like it's full of vitriol, but I feel like that's been one of your main purposes here. Hey, if you're sitting in a boardroom before you announce this, hey, we're going to go out and target these schools out of this conference. How are you running from the fact that, bro, this is our initiative to go out and take this conference down and do that by taking their best brands? Like it's a tough look.
Yeah, I agree. Couple more. UW fan Jim, NTWs. I don't know what that means. Can't survive the loss of their best brand. Do you mean the Mountain West Conference? I don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah.
Thomas Reed. By the way, UW fan Jim, a member for 14 months.
Yeah, appreciate you, UW.
On the show.
Yeah.
You'll eventually play the song.
Sorry, I got like 80 pages of drops over there.
Thomas Reed for $10. Point is not Hawaii, I think. Hawaii, San Jose State's value. It's grabbing two vulnerable Mountain West schools, crippling the Mountain West, and then getting UNLV for nothing compared to adding Texas State. I don't disagree with that premise, but you have UNLV and Colorado or Air Force Academy now signing an agreement to stay in the Mountain West.
And by the way, let's say you did that and you added those schools just to do that. You got to understand those schools have to be part of the next TV deal. So you're devaluing your TV deal for your premier partners at that point, which I think makes that difficult.
And I will again tell you that the Mountain West has a commitment from CBS, and the Mountain West has a commitment from Fox Sports. That's why it was so imperative that you hired Gloria Nevarez a couple of years ago now, because she's got great TV relationships, and she has remained in, sources have told me she's remained in communication with CBS and Fox. They're two bigger partners, obviously, on the situation, and they have kind of guided her along. And I think that's why UNLV was such a big part of this. I think it was critical that the Mountain West keep UNLV in the Las Vegas market. And by extension, I think that keeps Nevada in the conference, because Nevada and UNLV are in business together in the state of Nevada through the education department. So I think that was really important. So I think there's so many moving parts in this. Let's come back. I want to keep getting your comments in here. The Monty Show, as always, presented by The Advocate.
When you've been injured in an accident, you need a lawyer, and you deserve an advocate. Speaking with an attorney is simple and 100% free. We're available 24/7 for your convenience, and we'll take on the claims process so you can rest easy. You deserve an advocate.
Indeed, you do. The Advocates at theadvocates.com, where you never pay out of pocket for clear, risk-free legal advice. No retainers, no consultation fees. You don't pay the Advocates unless and until they win your case. And that means you get a settlement, which is how you pay the Advocates. You never reach into your pocket, because the Advocates know if you're looking for an injury attorney, it's one of the worst days of your life. They're ready to fight for you. They're ready to take all of that worry off your plate so you can get back to the best version of yourself. Chat with an injury attorney live online, 24/7, 365, and it won't cost you a dime at theadvocates.com. All right, if you're just tuning in this morning, resetting all the latest news on the Pac-12 Mountain West saga. Obviously, the lead story in this today is that UNLV and Air Force will remain in the Mountain West. They have, by all accounts, signed that agreement on the new grant of rights, which is what the Mountain West required of its remaining members. If you're going to stay here, you're going to sign a new grant of rights. UNLV and Air Force have agreed to sign that new grant of rights, pretty much locking them into the Mountain West through 2026 and into a new TV deal. So that is certainly something to keep your eye on. I really want to get to your comments. We already, in less than an hour, have 1,500 comments. Now more. Replace for $2. Replace MTW with MWC.
Yeah, that autocorrect will get you, bro.
It'll get you every time. Tony Barber. Hello, Tony. Good to see you. Agreed, Travis, but it would be a dream move for the Pac-12. Travis Hinton. I doubt the AAC would want to merge with the Pac-12. Never.
Well, I just don't think there's a need. Again, this question of value/need. Hey, again, what does the Pac-12 bring to the table for schools or for a prospective conference that you'd be looking at a merger with that they don't already have? And your only value at this point is the Pacific time zone. That's it. I mean, because that's your selling point. Hey, we're in Pacific time, which is obviously hugely valued to TV partners to fill that list. Has proven over the years, time and time again, to be a large TV viewership window. People love sitting on their couch, eating their chips, watching football late at night. People love it.
How did we watch the BYU game last week?
Yeah. Yes.
Big 12 after dark, 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time kickoff right here in the great state of Utah.
Look at that game delivering, right? Like, not just from a BYU standpoint, but just big plays. Like, it's everything you want.
Mrs. Monty and I went out to a nice dinner at Ruth's Chris, went to the Utah Symphony, came home right on time for kickoff.
Yeah.
The brand Pac-12 After Dark was real. And Big 12 After Dark is real too, obviously. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Big Daddy Magic. Yes, I've heard of American Pie. You mean Don McLean? Isn't he the basketball player, Don McLean? But okay. Jose Alaniz. Long live the Pac-12. Could be. Could absolutely be. Dan Davis, I know I'm a Pac-12 homer.
What?
You're a homer.
Whoa,
First of all, you're a homer.
You're a homer. Is the
Hold
first
on.
part.
I appreciate that accountability.
I do.
Thank you.
But I can see the other side points also. Caps Lock Thursday. Can we all agree Sac State is not a serious conversation? Can we stop mentioning them, please? Hawaii and Wyoming are more likely. I mean, listen. Sorry. Sac State is a legit. I don't know how to break this to you, but Sacramento State.
Can you say it a little louder for everyone? In the back?
Sacramento State is a legitimate option. I hate to break that to you. We have worked on this story repeatedly. I spoke to really well-placed sources yesterday that I've known for years since I spent my time at the great Sports 1140 KHTK in Sacramento many years ago.
Right.
Sac State's a legitimate option for the Pac-12 now.
Yeah.
And as they should be, because where else are you going to go? You're going to have a hard time. And again, I'm not trying to say this is my thinking, because it's not, but sources I've spoken to straight up told me, if the Pac-12 is calling you as a G5 commissioner, as a G5 president or chancellor, are you taking the phone call? That's a legitimate question. If you're in the Sun Belt, if you're in Conference USA, are you taking the phone call? Because the moment you pick up that phone, you're going to become a pariah amongst your G5 members.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think if you're if you're west of the Rockies, or I'm sorry, if you're east of the Rockies, I'm not sure you're answering that call.
Yeah,
and I know that seems wild. Like, what do you mean, dude? The Rockies are in the Mountain Time Zone. I know, but if you're in Texas, or if let's just say you're in Louisiana,
if
right?
you're in San Marcos, Texas,
like I'm not sure that it's worth the effort.
Because it's not guaranteeing you a payday, and it's not guaranteeing you more access. If you're Texas State, let's say that the Pac-12 somehow builds the greatest G5 we've ever seen, which I think is going to be tough now, and you're Texas State, and the Pac-12 says, hey, come join our conference. We're giving you more access to the college football playoff as the preeminent G5.
How?
Do you really think you're beating Boise? Do you really think you're beating San Diego State? You really think you're beating Fresno State? No, I don't think you are. And I don't think you believe you are. Because right now, the truth is, there might be, right now in the G5, how many G5 football teams have a legitimate chance at the college football playoff?
You count them on one hand.
3 to 5. Maybe.
At most.
And I know NIU, they're amazing.
Well, but I mean, best team we've seen.
How many have a legitimate chance? And I again, Pac-12 homers in the comments section and on my Twitter feed, and you're never getting that power designation back, which is, I understand, being called a power conference is not real. It's not an NCAA thing. But you're not getting your own automatic qualifier.
Right.
And I don't know how else to.
That's what I'm saying. This conversation would be way different if this was a payday thing. Like, hey, we've got all this money. We're ready to pay you guys out.
If you had a TV deal in place.
Yeah. Like, and that's what I'm saying. It's just, yeah.
If you said the Texas State today, every one of your games is going to be on Amazon Prime Video, you're automatically better in recruiting. You're automatically better in finances. You're better in partnerships. You're better in NIL. Like, everything across the board is better, but you're not. Thomas Reed for $10 more. Aside from UNLV, most schools the PAC adds will be bottom feeders. Every conference has 2 to 4 bottom feeders, even the SEC. They could go to Texas State, New Mexico State, Tulsa Sac, and have a solid conference. I don't disagree with that.
But is that why you're doing this, to have a solid conference?
But are you if you're UTEP, are you coming into the Pac-12? UTEP's not going to get road graded by anybody in the Pac-12. UTEP actually plays solid football. And Texas State, much the same. There's going to be a climb, but if you put Texas State, again, is what I'll use. If you put Texas State in the Pac-12, you better have a sales pitch. And it better be an elevator pitch because they're not going to be on the phone long. Because I, again, maintain, if UNLV saw real value in the Pac-12, they'd have been gone already.
Right. Kind of like their quarterback.
Because, which we'll get to in a minute.
See what I did there?
But there is no value. You're selling UNLV to the Pac-12 like UNLV sells quarterbacks with handshake deals for $100,000. You're welcome. You're welcome. Payco, a Texas fan. Texas State and UTSA to the Mountain West Conference makes more sense. UTSA is not leaving. That's not a lot of trust. There's not a lot of trust in the Pac.
No.
But again, I think, and I'll just look at the AAC. If you're UTSA, how on earth can you justify leaving the AAC?
But I really do believe it's not even that. Can you justify it? Do you even does it even sound appealing? Like it's almost like
I don't think it does.
It's something that you really like, or you smell a really good food, and you're like, damn, that smells really good. I want to go eat that, right? Or I want to go and do this. Like I don't think that Pac-12 jargon, if you will, that ringing of the Pac-12 brand's bell, if you will, like is like, oh man, we got to jump all over this thing. Like, I don't think that's the situation. I really do believe that if you're, again, anyone, school, commissioner, president, whoever, if when that phone rings and it's, hey, it's this person from the Pac-12 calling you to have a conversation, you're like, damn, dude, I don't want to get in the middle of that drama. Like, we're good. We're cruising. Like, we're in a fine position. Like, I don't think people necessarily want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
I think it's very tough. Eric Wasikowski, North Dakota State would be more valuable than Texas State. I don't agree. And I agree that North Dakota State, 9 national championships at the FCS level?
One of the best teams.
At the FCS level.
Yeah.
But why is Texas so valuable? It's the talent level at the high school there. But more than that, they have infrastructure to continually put out prolific football talent. Their stadiums, you look at Allen High School, or you look at the stadiums across the state of Texas, the money spent on football, the eyes that are brought to the TV with football brands in Texas. North Dakota State, with all due respect, does not add media rights value.
And with all due respect,
it does not add recruiting value.
Right.
And the hard truth on North Dakota State is, what has it always been? For coaches and players, what has it always been?
Stepping stone.
A stepping stone. And I was looking before I made the comment. Who was their coach for 4 of those 9 national championships? Chris Kleiman, who's at K-State now. So that's who you are. And I think it's very difficult when you look at the plight of somebody like a North Dakota State. You're always going to get your players recruited with NIL now. That's always going to be the case because you don't have weather. There's not a lot other than, hey, let me at least play championship caliber football, even if it's 1 AA.
Well, and I think, you look at their record. I mean, you're talking about double-digit wins all the way back to what is that, 2011?
Phenomenal.
You clearly built a culture there where there's an expectation, and they deserve a lot of credit for that. But unfortunately, like you said, the hard truth is that North Dakota is not Texas. And I think
it's tough, man.
That's really unfortunate because again, I don't disagree that they're incredibly entertaining to watch. That's good football, but when it's in North Dakota, it doesn't feel as nice, unfortunately.
And look at Matt Entz, the football coach at North Dakota State for the last 2 years. Wildly successful Matt Entz. Right? Where did he go? He went to USC to be the assistant defensive coordinator. Not the head coach, not the associate head coach, not the defensive coordinator.
Right.
That's the problem that you face. And I think you look at Matt Entz, he was 60-11.
It's domination.
And he went and took an assistant job. That's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah.
Man, that's a really tough existence. Kaner and money does make the world go round. Yes, it does.
Yeah. And I think in this situation, if you had a bunch of money, we'd be having a very different conversation.
UW fan Jim for $5. And Mountain West can't recover the loss of their 4 best brands. But wasn't that the same thing as everybody said about the Big 12? It is. And you've lost Nebraska, Missouri. You've lost Texas A&M, Texas.
But what hasn't the Mountain
Oklahoma.
West lost? The group of 5 conferences respect.
And UNLV.
And UNLV.
And I think that's huge. And having Air Force there still is huge. You have a foundation. Do you have to rebuild? Yeah, you don't have the house right now.
Yeah, did Hurricane Helen just come through and mess you up?
But you've got the foundation,
Yep.
and you can build back. I think I think it's critical you get the state of Texas. I think it's huge. Speaking of hurricanes, Florida, one of the top markets on this show. Be easy today.
Dude.
Are we saying that Arizona is in the Pacific time zone now? Sometimes.
Well, Monty, I don't know what time it is in Arizona. I mean, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Sometimes. Don't start, Maury. Hope you're well. Montana State gives you the Bozeman TV market.
Right.
Exactly. North Dakota, South Dakota, and SAC will join up, will become an FBS, and I am loving the stepping stone. Hey, man.
Hey.
Yeah. Delaric. Some Texas high schools have better stadiums than FBS schools. Most Texas high schools have better stadiums than UConn.
Yeah. And they're
Right?
on campus.
Oh, my God. It's wild. It's wild. Dan Davis. Red wine, it's the prime boom. Basically didn't exist the last decade in the PAC otherwise. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Nice.
Ted Adams. I don't disagree, but serious question. Is there enough talent in Texas for 80-plus schools to be benefiting from
Wow,
it?
that's a great question.
But the difference is you're never getting the 4- and 5-star recruit. But here's the question. Do you have the football coach to develop 2- and 3-stars into 4- and 5 stars? Because that's what you're fighting for. If you're a 5-star offensive lineman in Dallas, you can go to TCU, you can go to Tech, you can go to Austin, you can go anywhere you want.
SMU.
Well, let's not get carried away. You're welcome. If you're a 2-star offensive lineman and you're picking between G5 schools.
Yeah.
And you know that Texas State, who joined the Pac-12 or who joined the Mountain West, or am I going to go to the AAC and, well, maybe the AAC is giving you a look. And that's a better football brand. Okay, great. But the AAC doesn't have that Amazon Prime deal. And I need to make sure that moms can watch the game, and that matters, right? So if you're a 3-star linebacker and you want a better TV deal, you're probably going to Texas Tech. You're not, as a 3-star, you're probably not getting to Texas. But you'll go to Tech. You'll go to Oak State, because Oak State recruits the state of Texas very well. BYU recruits the state of Texas very well, right? So you're at least, if you say to yourself, can I take a 2-star offensive tackle, a 2-star Mike, a 2-star slot corner? Because everybody's going to have 3- and 4-star quarterbacks. Everybody's got a 3- and 4-star quarterback. They grow on trees. But what you don't have is trench players, because Texas State can't go to anywhereville, Pennsylvania, or Ohio and compete with Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, and everybody else looking for that 4- and 5-star lineman.
Right.
Joe Alt was never looking at Texas State.
But I think you make a great point. Texas State doesn't need to go out and win those, best of the best talents, because think about the role that schools like Texas State play in the overall system.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Like North Dakota State, Texas State, some of the schools at that level, you're playing a role in the overall system. And I know that sucks to say that, but it's true. And, being a stepping stone may sound like a terrible thing to say about North Dakota State or Texas State, but it's true.
It's reality.
And the ability of a school like North Dakota State or Texas State to build themselves up and to turn themselves into the best stepping stone is what it's about.
Yep.
And I don't think going to the Pac-12 helps you accomplish that goal at a more efficient rate.
Yep. Good morning, everybody just tuning into the show. Hope you are doing well. Let's get to UNLV and Matt Sluka after we tell you that Canyons Golf in Park City is the official golf club of the Monty Show. Canyons Golf, you'll find them at Park City Mountain Resort in Canyons Village. That's where you get Canyons Golf. Just get online, Google search Canyons Golf Park City. Book your tee time online. And the thing that I love about Canyons Golf is the basic things you expect at elite golf courses. GPS on the cart, really quality golf carts, coolers on the cart, everything you need, right? Like you get that. Concierge level service. They're going to carry your clubs from your trunk to your cart, from your cart to your trunk. You're getting great service. You get a great starter who has you moving on time, right? You get that. But you also get these beautiful mountain vistas, the color changing fall leaves up in the mountains of Park City, unbeatable. You're going to see elk, deer. You're going to occasionally see a bear. You're going to see foxes. Like you're going to see wildlife while you're playing golf. It's amazing. And you're going to be on elevated tee boxes where on the 17th hole, you're going to hit a drive. And maybe you're a guy that only drives at 220, 230. You're hitting at 300 yards.
Yes.
Because the ball flies up there and it's downhill off of an elevated tee box. And it's a majestic drive that you're going to put on your social media and you're going to have on your phone in your video for probably a good long while, because it feels good to hit long, high drives, right? That's what you love about playing golf in the mountains. Lush fairways, receptive greens, challenging greens, but receptive greens. And did I mention you can also get a world-class dining experience, play 18 holes, go to the bottom of the Pendry building in the Canyons Village, get a wonderful Mexican lunch. Oh, the Mexican food at the Pendry. But anything else you want, burgers, sports bar, you want to play golf and then go watch some football in a sports bar, Canyons Village, Park City Mountain Resort is where you find Canyons Golf. Tell them you heard about it on the Monty Show. Matt Sluka. Ay vey. You've heard this story. Matt Sluka claims that UNLV assistant coaches made him a $100,000 handshake agreement to leave Holy Cross to come to UNLV, where he's been successful. He's a run-first quarterback. They're 3-0, and he's played a huge role in it. That was until yesterday when the news broke that Matt Sluka accused UNLV of reneging on their NIL deal. They said they were going to pay me $100,000. Sluka says he only got $3,000. His agent claims that it was a handshake deal. Well, why don't you have a contract? Well, part of the problem is now we know, according to the collective, that Matt Sluka's agent's not registered in the state of Nevada, so they can't legally talk with him because he's not a registered operator in Nevada. Well, what about the dad? Well, the dad says that there was a deal in place, and Matt Sluka says there was a deal in place. So after weeks and weeks and months and asking, and the Slukas say that they were told, oh, it's coming. The money's coming. We're going to pay it. After 3 games, Matt Sluka is quit the football team and is going to enter the transfer portal in December, and he's going to take this year as a redshirt year. And there was never a contract in place. And then for their part, UNLV came out and did not hold back. UNLV Athletics right here. Matt Sluka's representatives made financial demands upon the university and its NIL collective in order to continue playing. UNLV Athletics interpreted these demands as a violation of the NCAA's pay-for-play rules, as well as the Nevada state law. UNLV has conducted its due diligence and will continue to operate its program within the framework of NCAA rules and regulations, as well as Nevada state laws. But then there's the collective saying, we want to address the recent developments surrounding and his decision to redshirt. To clarify, there were no formal NIL offers made during Mr. Sluka's recruitment process. Additionally, friends of UNLV did not finalize or agree to any NIL offers while he was part of the team, aside from a completed community engagement event over the summer. As Blueprint Sports and Friends of UNILV, Okay. We take our commitment very seriously. We would like to emphasize that we upheld all Friends of UNILV contracts this season and have not defaulted on any agreements with Mr. Sluka. Our commitment to supporting Rebel student athletes remains unwavering, and we are dedicated to maintaining the integrity of our programs. We wish Mr. Sluka all the best in his future endeavors. Signed, UNLV, IL, Live Golf. This is terrible for everybody. Matt Sluka looks like somebody who is not refined or, frankly, not business savvy. UNILV looks like somebody that doesn't keep their word. And this is a bad name for NIL agents because the agent came out and said, yeah, they made us a handshake deal for $100,000. You're an agent, sir. How do you not have your guy under contract before he takes a step on campus? And then you got to wonder about good old Bobby Sluka, the father of Matt Sluka, told Adam Rittenberg and ESPN, they kept deferring. We don't know. You have to wait. Then it was like, we're going to give him game checks. So we were like, okay, great. We didn't ask for a single dollar more. Sluka's living expenses weren't even covered. But again, I side with UNLV on this. You didn't have a contract. You had nothing in writing. It would be illegal for assistant coaches to tell Matt Sluka or any other player, hey, come here, we'll pay you $100,000. It's not how the game works. You get it in writing. And kids across the country are getting game checks. But they have it in writing. And I'll be honest with you, I don't feel bad for Bob and Matt Sluka. You made your bed. Hope it's comfortable. Sleep well. Because you did this to yourself. By not being a savvy business person, which is now what you all whined and complained about.
It's required now.
This is what you all wanted. You wanted the Wild West of NIL. Congratulations, Slukas. You got it. Not having a written contract for that $100,000 is unconscionable. If you are an agent, if you are a father, it is unconscionable that you would not advise Matt Sluka to have a contract. And if you are Matt Sluka, it is nobody's fault but your own, because you know better than this. You don't. You were at Holy Cross. Are you telling me you had no idea that you needed to have this financial agreement in writing? Yeah, you did. And you didn't do it because you were excited to go to Vegas and play football. And now you're not going to play football this year. You're going to redshirt. You're going to transfer. And we're never going to hear from you again. That's my guess, because most guys that get in the portal, we never hear from them again.
Mm-hmm.
That's the overwhelming, pervasive track record of quarterbacks who transfer. It's very rare that you transfer under a cloud and succeed. This is not Bo Nix going to Oregon. That's not what this is.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at all of the guys who have the Jaden Deloras of the world, how did that work out for Jaden Delora? I don't know either, because I haven't heard a word about him. Guys who transfer under bad business practices generally don't succeed in this world. And I don't feel sorry for this kid, and maybe I'm the only one. And if that makes me play the heel here, fine, I'll play the heel. I don't feel bad for Matt Sluka this morning.
Yeah, my interpretation of this whole thing was that it's just got NIL Wild Wild West written all over it. It's got, hey, assistant coach opened his mouth when he shouldn't have, because that's the thing at the university level you're not going to get away from. And I agree with everything you said about the Slukas. 100%, you made your bets, time to lie in it. But this situation was born out of someone saying, hey, come to UNLV, we'll pay you 100 G's to do that. And I agree, it's not in contract. Like, there's no way to enforce it. I'm 100% with that. But for college football, that's what this is. And that's the problem I have with it. Now,
yeah,
again, I don't feel bad for the Slukas, but I also don't feel bad for UNLV, right? I mean, if you're an employee and you walk into the office and your boss isn't about to pay you, then you probably wouldn't want to work either. So everyone giving this kid all this heat, I feel like it's a little bit exaggerated. It's okay to say, yeah, you know what? Like, he should know better. It should be like, you should have got a contract.
Yeah.
Hey, that's cool. But killing this kid over, quitting on the football team and being some terrible I think we take it a little bit too far, right? I think we took the immediate reaction was like, oh, this dude's a terrible guy and he quit on his team because he wasn't getting paid. Like, come on, dude. Don't treat this kid like this. And then what did we all forget about the Cormani McClain experience at Colorado? Did we all forget
Where's he?
Did we all forget about other dudes who've hopped in the portal because they didn't get their checks? Like, let's not kill this kid. You're only killing him because UNLV's having this cute little start where they haven't lost a game yet. And everyone's like, oh, well, they're going to the college football playoff. Okay, I'll see you in November when they've got 3 losses, and then we can kind of talk about their prospects. So I don't want to roast this kid, but I want to be fair about it. An assistant coach at UNLV should not be saying these things in recruiting. It's completely inappropriate to say that and then not be able to back it up. Number one. Number two, let this serve as an absolute warning shot over the bow of any player who can garner that kind of bread. Dude, if it's not on paper, you're not getting paid. And I guess this is the contract law show today. Like, if it's not on paper, it's not enforced. And if it is on paper, it is going to be enforced whether you like it or not. So that's kind of the hard part with this whole situation. And it's fitting that this quarterback UNLV, NIL situation's taking place inside of the Pac-12 expansion conversation, right? Because it's like, hey, UNLV's deciding to stay in the Mountain West. They got paid. Quarterback didn't get paid. Now the running back is redshirting and leaving. Like, it's just a weird, it's weird how all that played out. But I part ways with people who are like, oh, this kid's a terrible person, because he's not a terrible person.
And I think Cormani McClain's a very interesting case study. Have you guys seen the stats he's putting up at Florida? Oh, you haven't, because he has no sortable stats this season.
Oh,
bad football team.
I do not, and we've talked about this. I know I don't love NIL, but it's here. And if you're a football player, and I don't care if you're a Pop Warner player, or if you are a 5-star recruit, if you don't get a contract, you don't have, and you are not entitled to anything.
Agreed.
Anything. And UNLV, I don't believe, and I will not believe for a second, that coaches said, oh yeah, come here and we'll give you $100,000. I don't believe that, because it's too easy to get caught.
Yeah.
And you have the UNILV collective to do your dirty work for you.
And this is what I think, in the bigger picture, like there does need to be, Charlie Baker put out a statement yesterday, basically talking about how that's why they're working towards clarity on who's getting paid what and where that money comes from and what the agreement is. Because again, it's like what Kyle Whittingham said at Big 12 Media Days. We're heading toward an NFL minor league system. And part of being an NFL minor league system is knowing how much Shedeur is making to pay for that Rolls, right? Or to pay for that Lambo, or knowing how much Arch Manning is making with that, that pilot's card that he's got.
But this is where the Bear Alexander situation at USC comes in.
Right.
Bear Alexander could have gone anywhere. He went to USC. Did you hear the news about Bear Alexander, the defensive tackle at USC? He is going to redshirt. He is not going to play another snap this year. Is he in the portal? Is he complaining about his money? No, you know what he's complaining about? Playing time. And you know what his dad said? We're going to do everything we have to do to get back on the field next year and be the disruptive, dominant player that we came here to be.
And why is that so smart? If you think about it, that's so smart and that's good business for him as a player and for their family, because what's he going to do? He's obviously still going to practice. He's obviously still going to be part of the program. He's still going to be in that locker room every day. But what he's also going to do is he's also going to work his ass off to get stronger and to get better and to get faster and to get more capable so he can get on the field so he can ultimately make that money. Yeah. But the difference is dudes like that who are playing, with all due respect to UNLV, who are playing at SC, who is now a Big Ten powerhouse brand, understand the opportunity in front of them.
All right, let's get your comments rolling. Who do you side with, UNLV or Matt Sluka? I'm happy to take your comments on the Pac-12 Mountain West situation. Oak State James for $5. If Texas State, UTEP, and or North Texas join the Pac-12, then I could drive to 4 conference games. Great show. Keep up the good work.
Appreciate you, James.
Good to see you. Thomas Reed for $5. 5-star players go to 5-star schools. Most of D1 makes do with 2 or 3-star development talent. You build a small program of solid 3-star dudes.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that play out at several programs right now.
And the best power conference schools do not rely on 5-star talent. Like, why is Steve Sarkisian so successful? Because he dominates with 3-star recruits that he turns into 4- and 5-star performers. And why is Texas as deep as they have ever been? Why is their transition to the SEC been so seamless? Because he's got so much talent at Texas. Why is Kyle Whittingham such a dominant force at Utah?
Yes.
Because he takes a 2-star quarterback and turns him into a 4- and 5-star free safety. Cornerback. Why is Mekhi Bernard a dominant force at running back? Because Utah turned him into a running back.
Why is the BYU linebacker room always loaded?
Look at Jaquindon Jackson at Arkansas. Jaquindon Jackson went from a quarterback at Utah to a running back at Utah to a stud running back at Arkansas. Because you take guys who aren't great at their chosen position and you turn them into elite performers at another position. That happens every year at Utah. It's just the way business is done. Ukrainian mail order bride industry is booming for $5. TCU was let off the hook, but giving up 66 to SMU. TCU hasn't been the same since 65-7, just like Florida State hasn't been the same since 63-3. Spike Dykes' kid is in real trouble in Fort Worth. Sonny Dykes better figure it out because he's got the offense and he's got the talent there, and they're not winning enough. And I think his leash is getting shorter at TCU. And I understand that guys like Mr. Clean down in Waco don't get fired. I think TCU is not going to sit around and wait long.
Right.
I think he needs to start winning now. Calford up to 25. Let's go.
Nice
Appreciate
work.
you.
Nice work.
Appreciate you. Cougs Johnson. This will be the first and last time like this happens in NIL history. Unfortunately, UNLV is going to end up being a question on Sports Jeopardy for the next quarter century.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Do we ever see Matt Sluka again?
I think we will. He's shown a lot of ability.
Oh, he's a good quarterback.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah. I think that not this. I mean, obviously he's going to redshirt till the portal opens back up in December, and then from now
an
till
early
then,
enrollee.
Yeah, from now until then, he's going to have conversations to try to get somewhere. I think he is a little bit flammable right now, but I think if you're a power team, if you're a power conference team, yeah, I'd bring him in, make him your backup.
But I think he's a G5 player. Because he's not a prolific. He can throw the football. There's all these people yesterday. All he does is run. Who are you, Avery Johnson? He can actually. I'm sorry, I had to.
Dude, bro, Dude,
My
they're
bad.
still a little tender.
Okay. Anyway, no, not doing it. The point is, he can actually throw the football.
Yeah.
So he can. Let's see who else. K. Nurin. UNLV did not win, and he didn't win. Dr. Sean Douglas, Team Sluka. Really?
Yeah. What do you live on the second floor too?
Really?
My name is Luca.
My name is Sluka. Tony Barber, Dyke's future is OC at Cal next year. Well, he was already the head coach at Cal. So shouting, hook 'em, Texas, going to run the SEC.
We'll see about that.
Stepanik, good morning. Hope you're feeling well. Ukrainian mail order bride says Calford legend. Exactly.
Seriously.
Right. Christopher Shannon, he's a scrub. Sluka's not a scrub. Eric Wasikowski, odds of MSU upsetting slim and none just walked out the door. Michigan State's not talented. Michigan State is Michigan State
go there.
Michigan State and Michigan are very similar. They are just woefully untalented right now. Michigan State is building. They are building. Let's see. Thomas Reed, or back to FCS. He certainly could. Calford for $5. He should transfer to Southern Illinois and play for the Salukis.
Yeah, right?
Because Sluka's,
Right.
the Southern Illinois Slukas.
See what he did there?
You
The
know.
Salukas?
Who cares if he is a G5 player? I'll take him at Iowa any day. Well, come on. You take me
Wow.
as the starting quarterback at Iowa.
Wow. You going to pay him 100 G's too?
Easily. BYU and Utah to the Super League. I would agree with that. Tony Barber, Sluka to be a second string QB at Washington State or Oregon State next year. Wow. UW fan Jim, didn't UNLV's H-back say they screwed him too? He said opportunities were not realized. Their third string running back also hit the portal and said that opportunities and commitments were not realized.
So that's what I'm saying, dude. It's not all on this kid. The coaching staff at UNLV messed this up 10 ways to Sunday, and it's really clear.
Yeah.
But
agree.
again, you're not getting away from, hey, it wasn't on paper, so good luck.
Sal Capone, good to see you, bud. Big 12 hoops schedule out today. Yeah, I know. And I'm excited. I'm here for it. It has been, I feel like it has been so, I feel like we've been waiting for the Big 12 basketball schedule for how long? Too long. Arizona and Arizona State to the Super League. Oh my God. That's awesome. Herders got, okay. So Herders, do I have faith that this is going to be a good comment? Delusional take to say BYU and Utah are good teams. Well, there you go. Teams, they are hot garbage and won't win anything this year.
What does that make Oklahoma State then,
Arizona and Baylor will expose you this weekend.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Have a nice day, dude.
And prime example number 7,000 of why we don't read non-member comments.
Yeah.
But it is a good bridge to Big 12 power rankings. All right. Is there any, and I know they're hot garbage.
Right. They're terrible.
Is
They're
there
brutal.
any doubt that Utah is the best team in the Big 12 right now?
No, I don't think there's any doubt that number 15 and Utah is, the best team in the Big 12. I don't have any doubt about that. I think they've proven themselves. I think
number 15, they're 10th in the country right now.
No, that was an Alan Bowman reference.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
The safety number.
Yeah.
You got
number 15 in Utah and Alan Bowman, and
it
for all
sounded
you
like
folks
you
that
were
watch every
calling
day.
them number.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't. It's them and everybody else right now. I think, the difference is BYU's 4-0 looks a lot different than Utah's, and I think
agree.
that my opinion, just like most people, is BYU is going to come back to the middle a little bit, and I would agree with what you said the other day that BYU is looking good right now, but there's no reason not to get to 7 wins this year.
Waco's a tough place to play. So without further ado,
yeah,
in the comments section, your top 5 teams in the Big 12. I think that if I had to do it today, I would put K-State as the 5th best team in the conference. This game this weekend, folks, K-State and Oak State, I don't know how much more clearly I can state that this is an elimination game, period. Whoever loses this game is done. And I think it is a shocking 5-point number in favor of K-State. Games in Manhattan totally get it. Oak State, you're a 5-point dog at K-State.
I don't know.
That is a shocking number.
I mean, I'm not trying to be hot take guy, but after what they did against Utah or didn't do.
Well, and here's what worries you if you're an Oak State fan. Look at what the Utes did running the football. And you've got Giddens and Avery Johnson and Edwards that I think are going to run all over Oak State. I think this could be potentially one of the lows in the entire Mike Gundy era.
And I think this game, if it goes K-State's way, right, assuming that K-State has a nice day, this is going to be one of those games where, if K-State's got it going on the ground, the time of possession numbers are going to be pretty ugly because you think about, you think about Avery Johnson and that
Who are
running
you,
back
West
room.
Virginia?
Yeah, seriously, right? Like you're just going to run the football. And, I don't have any doubt about that in this game. But I think that the Gundy offensive situation, that's what I'm going to be looking for. You know what K-State's going to do. You know what they bring. You know the strategy. It's very clear. It's not rocket science. But does Alan Bowman look any better? Does the wide receiver room look any better than they did last week, man?
Can the wide receivers create separation?
Yeah.
We're going to find out because that defense is pretty stout. Number 4, BYU. I think is the 4th best team today on September 26th, if you're asking me. In my Big 12 power rankings, I have BYU at number 4. And I think the thing that is so critical here that as we look at why and how, the best part about BYU's start to this season has been this defense that is creating turnovers, that is creating opportunities for guys like Jacob Robinson, these linebackers, Tyler Batty, to make plays, tackles for loss, hit the quarterback. So you're still seeing BYU give up the big run, the chunk play on the ground, but it's getting more and more difficult to throw the football down the field on BYU, and I think that's a big part of this. Now, I think they have the best wide receiver room in the conference, and we're seeing that on a regular basis. I think Jake Retzloff has gotten incrementally better as the season has gone on. Certainly no turnovers is a big part of the success that BYU had against K-State, but they have got to take that down to Waco. But before we go to Waco, Jake, I think BYU is the 4th best team in the conference right now.
Yeah, I think that BYU, to me is hovering around that 3rd or 4th best spot. To me, I would say I would give them the nod at number 3 just because of the dominance of that win over K-State. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, oh, well, hey, there was a lot of special teams, a lot of defense, a lot of, it wasn't like they were just driving the football down the field and they dominated K-State that way. And all I'm saying is I don't care if you have to do it on special teams or defense. You did it.
That's right.
And the score reflects it. And I think that for me, I would have BYU at number 3. And to me, when we look at, 5, 4, and 3, I've got K-State and Oklahoma State tied for that 4th and 5th spot. I think the loss for K-State was incredibly difficult. I think obviously the loss for Oklahoma State was incredibly difficult. And these two teams are reeling. And I think they're both capable. I fully expect one of them to dominate this game and have a bounce back week. But they're basically in the same spot in the season for me. So I have them at 5 and 4 and BYU at number 3.
Yeah, and I differ with you on this because I don't think that we have seen anything either defensively or offensively from Oak State that would lead us to believe that they are one of the 5 best teams or even in the conversation. I think they're in conversations with Arizona, Arizona State, Oak State. I think that's where how good is Arizona? We're going to find out Saturday at Rice-Eccles Stadium in Utah. I don't believe that they are and we talked about this all summer with the projections having them win 8-9 games. We saw projections with them at 9 wins.
Well, the good news for them is they're coming off the bye, right? So you're coming off the bye into a road week. So at least you're rested, so Utah is going to get the absolute best version of Arizona that anyone's seen this season so far. That's not in question.
Yeah. I'm not I want to see it.
Yeah.
I want to see it. Number 3 in the conference for me, the UCF Knights. I think they are the team that not a lot of people talk about. I look at this bye heading to this Colorado matchup, huge. And it's an afternoon game on Fox. It's a huge game. You're going to have a huge TV audience. This is an opportunity for Gus Malzahn and that club to really explode onto the national scene. And I think it is huge that this is at the Bounce House in Orlando. I think this is massive because if you don't win this game, you've got two really interesting tests. You're going to Gainesville and then Iowa State. And I think you also have BYU coming to town as well. This is a must win for UCF. If they win this game, I think this very much solidifies UCF as one of the three best teams in the conference. I love what UCF is doing right now.
Yeah, for me, I would have Iowa State in that spot. I think, UCF, it's a huge game. I agree with all that, opportunity to get some recognition nationally. But I trust Iowa State's defense more than I trust UCF's ability to continue to do this the whole season. And I think that Iowa State's had some good wins this year. Obviously, they're heading in the right direction and they surprise us. Seemingly every year, Iowa State has a win on their schedule. You're like, hey, how did you win that game? Well, they have a great defense. And to me, that's why I would give them the edge in the top 5 over UCF. But I will say, depending on how that Oak State K-State game goes, I think UCF is coming for the top 5 without a doubt.
Yeah, I've got Iowa State as the second best team in the conference right now. The problem is the schedule's really soft. They're going to need help from teams like Texas Tech, who they have coming up on the schedule. We're probably not going to get a real good look at Iowa State until near the end of the season. They're going to Houston this week, and that should be an auto 10, 12-point win.
Right.
And I look at you pounded Arkansas State 52-7. I don't know how much of a measuring stick we can put on Iowa State right now. I could be wrong. But it'll be very interesting to see how Iowa State goes through and if they have a letdown game. But yeah, my number 2 team in the conference is Iowa State.
Yeah, and I think that's the big difference right now in Big 12 power ranking conversations is this whole concept of kind of what you were alluding to a minute ago about how like Oklahoma State is really this sort of X factor team in the conference right now. Like if you are still giving them the benefit of the doubt, and having them in that 5th spot, then that inherently kicks out a UCF. But if you're, in the way you are, hey, if Oklahoma State's on the outside looking in, then yeah, it is UCF and Iowa State and both. And I think, again, that's why this K-State Oklahoma State game is so important.
What have you seen from Oklahoma State that puts them as one of the 5 best teams in this league?
So to me, I think that, when you look at Gundy, again, I have my reservations about Mike Gundy, but we can't have it both ways. The guy puts out 8-9 win seasons like nobody else does. And to me, being that that's the case, I would expect a bounce back this week. Now, I don't know how they're going to do that. I don't. I don't trust that Ollie Gordon all of a sudden is going to wake up. Obviously, I don't love what I'm seeing out of Bowman. But, you got beat at home. And, for the...
handily.
Yeah, I was going to say, for all the people who look at it, objectively, yeah, you got dominated at home. And anytime that happens to a football team, that next week, I would expect you to bounce back. So that's why, for now, I have them there. But if you lose this game, you're heading towards, a 9-8-7 ranking in the Big 12.
I can't see them going to Kansas State and winning.
Yeah.
I've seen, you know what it is? It's not what I haven't seen. It's what I have seen.
Right.
And I just don't see, and I know we talk about this pretty much every day, I haven't seen anything out of that passing offense that makes me think. And frankly, I'm more worried about the defense this week than the offense. Because they don't stop the run well and they don't stop the pass well. And I can't believe that Oak State can play with the ferocity or the pace that BYU's defense played at last week. You're not who's making the Parker Kingston play,
right?
Who's making I don't see
the
that
punch
happening.
Out fumble creation is is Rucker making that play?
I don't see that happening. That's what worries me about Oak State is I don't see quality. What I see is there are so many questions across that secondary.
I don't disagree with your assessment. I guess the only difference is I'm giving Mike Gundy one more week of the benefit of the doubt, if you will. I'm giving him one more week to show me, okay, hey, Utah's the best team in the conference. We've been telling you that since before the season started and got a lot of heat for that. Now it's undisputed, right? They're the best team in the conference, class of the conference, best defense you've seen. Okay, fine. I'll make concessions on that. You got your ass kicked by the best team in the conference. Okay, so that inherently means against K-State, you should be able to go on the road and you should win that game if you are that guy. So I'm giving you one more week to show us that you can do that. But if not, you're not really giving me anywhere to go.
I think when you look at how good and the quality across the depth chart that Utah brings,
it's impressive.
There's not a question that Utah is the best team in this conference. And I think when you understand just how deep that defense is, and I've heard a lot of people saying, well, is this the year that BYU could really, beat Utah? And I understand a lot of people outside of the great state of Utah don't understand this, but the talent dip from 2 to 3 at BYU is significant. Their 1s and 2 can compete with anybody in this conference, including Utah. The difference that we are seeing at Utah is not the 1s and 2s, and they are good. The 3s and the 4s are rising up, and you're seeing this offensive line at Utah get better every week.
Yes.
You're playing this caliber of defense without Karene Reed. You're getting a guy like Logan Fano, Van Fillinger. You're getting guys up front that are really performing. Cody Barton. You're looking at guys. The Barton family has become a pipeline for linebackers in that program.
Yep.
You're looking across the depth chart at Utah. It's not the 1s and 2s, because anybody that competes in this conference, your 1s and 2s are deep.
Yep.
But do I have to go any further than Isaac Wilson at Utah and the massive development that we have seen? And you look at the throws that he made and the runs he made against Oak State. That's what should be concerning to you. And if you look at on defense, the Smith Snowdens, I look at the Sione Fatus of the world, or the Teo Johnsons with that big hit that was not targeting.
Mm-hmm.
The 1 through 4 depth on defense, it's elite. It's elite. And you can't overcome that rep in and rep out at BYU. And then you turn your attention to people that you don't know. Lander Barton. You don't know who Lander Barton is. I said Cody Barton earlier. Excuse me. Lander Barton. You don't know who Lander Barton is.
Right.
Lander Barton is a single-digit linebacker now that makes an impact on every single snap. Right. And I go to I go to the special teams at Utah, and I look at Money Parks, Micah Pittman. Those guys are dynamic special teams players in the return game. Cole Becker, 3 of 4 with a 44-yard long. Jack Bomeister. Like, their special teams are really good.
Yes.
Their defense is really good. Their offense is really good.
And defensively, it's the discipline to the concept that's impressive to me when you watch Utah. Like, if you take any fandom out of it, if you're a Utah fan, the thing that makes your team so successful is Witt's ability to get his guys on defense to play the concept they're trying to run, to not take chances, to not like, yes, if it's an obvious thing, hey, take your shot, but hey, like the scheme calls for you to drop into coverage or go get the quarterback. And they do that at such a high level that you're not even really in a position to beat them from an offensive standpoint, unless you can outthrow a safety. And if you can do that, then you can beat Utah.
And if you look at BYU and what's winning at BYU, well, their offensive line is really solid, and they have the best wide receiver room in the conference. My question is, can you consistently pressure the better quarterbacks in this league? Because if you can't, all that talent in the secondary is diminished because they have to cover for longer.
And that's why you're seeing them try to create the turnover and trying to be so prolific on special teams. Obviously, it goes without saying that, Parker Kingston isn't going to have that play every week. That's a 1 in a million play. It was a great moment. Awesome
but
college
they have
football
this
thing.
propensity to make that play now.
Yeah. Because they're looking for it.
And again, what makes Utah so lethal? What have I told you all year? Brant Keithy's a wide receiver. Didn't he average 18 yards per catch last week? Like, ridiculous. That's what makes Utah so good. That's why Utah is number 1. Iowa State's number 2. I put UCF 3. I put BYU 4. And I have that K-State. I think K-State's number 5 right now.
Mhm.
I think the bottom half of this conference, nobody else can make a compelling argument. Not Colorado, not West Virginia, who's 2-2 now. Cincinnati, certainly not.
Well, I think Colorado's an interesting one because, beating UCF, that'd be a quality win in my opinion. UCF is a good team. They're solid. They're not a bad team, and they're explosive. And again, and for better or for worse, I guess, it's every week with Colorado where you're playing a shootout. And, so that would be a good win. And if Colorado wins, I think you got to move them up the stack a little bit. But if you're 3-2, you're an average Big 12 team, slightly subpar. But if you're 4-1, now we're having a different conversation.
I don't know what I'm going to need to see from Texas Tech to bump them up, but
better defense, more capable defense.
You got Cincinnati.
More confident.
They have Cincinnati this week. I mean, I think Texas Tech can do. I'm really impressed with Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State. I think Deion Sanders is doing a great job at Colorado. I'll continue to say it. I know I'm the only one. But let's go. Let's get in the comment section here. UW fan Jim, UCF snuck by what we now know is a terrible TCU team.
Fair.
You could be right.
Fair.
And that's why I say here we are in September 26th. You got to earn it every week on the field in the Big 12.
And that's part of why, it's a good point. I think at this time of the year, when I'm doing power rankings, a lot of what I consider is, hey, what's more reliable? Like if I said to you, hey, what's more reliable? Utah's defense showing up or this team's ability to run the football? Well, obviously Utah's defense. So when I look at UCF, right, like I'm sitting here saying, okay, well, what's more reliable? Iowa State's defense or UCF's ability just to win a ball game? And that's why currently I'm thinking about, hey, Iowa State's in your top 5. UCF is on the outside looking in, but they're not far outside. They're 6 at the lowest. And if they win this week, then I think you got to elevate them.
I think RJ Harvey's the running back that nobody knows about.
Harvey
Dent. I think RJ Harvey is the running back that nobody wants to talk about. I think he is the second best running back in the league this year.
Mm-hmm.
My guy Taj at Texas Tech is number 1 in my opinion. And I think you look at what KJ Jefferson is doing at UCF. He is a better quarterback now than I have ever seen him be. And the statistics don't lie. He's a guy that last year took a big step back at Arkansas, but that wasn't a good football team. And I think when you look at the fact that he's averaging 11 yards per completion, he's not turning the football over, 5 touchdowns and a pick. I think they're going to be tough to beat. I think they're going to be tough to beat. K-Nur and BYU +4. BYU by 4, 24-17. Okay. I mean, I think that the Baylor game that's a big football game. I mean, I think that you look at BYU, I would bet them as the dog. I would bet them as a dog because it's going to be a close game.
Yeah.
And it depends. Did Baylor not show out on the road? Or was this a thing where they're just not a great football team?
I think that Baylor, it's what I said about the Utah win over Baylor. Baylor is a team that wants to kick your ass physically, but isn't good enough to beat you. And the problem is for BYU, what have we seen? We've seen a little bit of propensity. And again, I love my boy Jake Retzoff, a little propensity to turn it over. So if that were to take place, I think BYU could be in some trouble in this game. But if we take care of the football and we get that same physical brand of defense where we're looking for turnovers, we're punching the football out, like we're imposing our will that way, I think BYU's right in this. And I would absolutely have them to cover the 3.5. Absolutely, positively, without a doubt.
The thing that worries you about Baylor is I don't think they do anything they're not elite at anything. They don't throw the ball well. They don't particularly run the ball well. And I think Sawyer Robinson is a pretty average-ass quarterback.
Yeah.
I think when I look at him, he does not make mistakes, which I appreciate. But he also isn't a guy that's going to be like, well, hot damn, let's burn him down.
Right.
Throw it down the field. That's not who this cat is. And again, the thing that worries you about their rushing offense is they're averaging 4.1 yards a carry, and their long is only 46 yards. And that's what.
Yeah, there's a lack of explosiveness on that offense.
They don't do anything exceptionally well. And so when I look at who they are, I don't love some of the team numbers. They're under 30 points a game. And the other thing that worries you is they're under 30 points a game and they haven't played great defenses.
Right.
This BYU defense represents the second best defense that they're going to see to start the season, Utah being number one.
You think Utah's going to run some cover one against Baylor?
Against Arizona. Tarleton, they put up 45 and won. They put up 12 points against Utah and lost.
Right.
Air Force, they put up 31. Colorado, they put up 31. So the three bad defenses they've seen. And again, I'll go back to the numbers and we're talking about Baylor here.
Yeah.
I'll go back to the numbers in the Colorado game because Colorado gives up gash plays. Sawyer Robinson averaged 7 yards per attempt. And on a really average-ass rushing defense at Colorado, they only got 4 yards a carry. That's concerning.
Right.
That's concerning. And I think they had that one big run, and that was it. And the other thing that worries you is that Shedeur put up 341 yards passing and averaged 8 yards of completion. And if you look at Travis Hunter and you look at, obviously, the Hail Marys, that's going to skew those numbers. But you look at LeJontay Wester, averaged 17 yards a catch.
Right.
Jimmy Horn, 10 yards a catch. Travis, 18.6 yards a catch.
Well, and I think the other thing to point out, too, with this Colorado team is that offensive line and pass pro is just not great.
Not good.
Just not good at all. And I think so that's kind of the crazy thing when you look at those numbers. So when you're looking at BYU Baylor, like obviously BYU's offensive line has been pretty solid in the run game, I think. The pass pro has been hit or miss. It depends who they're playing, depends, it's been inconsistent. And so, I think, Baylor's going to have a chance to get home a little bit in this game, but I would expect BYU to be able to run the ball. And what's really interesting is BYU's running back room's getting healthy. So guys like LJ Martin allegedly are going to play this week. So they say. Now, is he 100%? Is he 80%? Well, let's see what he is on game day, right? But if you've got 3 running backs in that room that can be productive for you, and BYU can find the way to get it going on the ground, I would expect a lot of running the football and then working play action because Retzloff loves running play action. He thrives off of play action.
Because they have the best wide receiver room in the conference. Now, and on the other side of this, obviously, it was impressive to see them operate against K-State's defense, which is actually a good defense, but it's 8:30 at night. It's Provo. It's elevation.
Tough environment.
Okay, this is going to be a much different scenario. You're on the road, hostile environment. Baylor fans are great.
It's going to be hot.
And my question is, what is BYU's ability to operate offensively in a hostile environment? Because I think Laramie, Wyoming is a character builder. It's not a hostile environment, especially this year. SMU, that was a good win. I don't care any way you slice it. Jake Retzloff was not good in that game.
Yeah.
And they still found a way to win. And I think that the biggest question is, how much credence do you put in the opponents that BYU has faced? Okay, there's no way to slice it. K-State's defense is good.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no way to argue that. The question is, what did BYU show us that they will do to you if you can't throw the football? They'll let you run the ball. And then they're going to put you in third downs because anytime you heavily rely on the run, you're going to find yourself in those third and awkward.
Yeah, third
and
and 4.
6, 3rd and 8. You're going to find yourself in awkward positions. Where does Baylor find itself in this game? If you're 3rd and less than 5, you're probably going to win the game. If you're in 3rd and 5 and less on a regular basis, you're probably going to win the game. But if you've got to drop back and you've got to throw for 8, 10, 12 yards, this BYU secondary will smother you, and they will force you into mistakes. And again, I think Avery Johnson's not a very good thrower of the football. And I think that was borne out.
Neither is Sawyer.
But that's the thing that worries me.
Yeah.
Do we believe? Because I think Jake Retzloff is a superior quarterback. And I think, listen, Sawyer Robertson is a guy that doesn't turn the football over. But you better be able to run the ball. You better pick up 5.5 yards per run here, or you're going to be in a tough spot. We'll have a full preview of that game tomorrow.
The other thing I would say too, just before we move on, is I don't like, this is an offense. If you're the BYU defense, you're looking at this offense and you're saying, okay, let's do to them what Utah did to Oak State. Let's put 7 guys in the box, 8 guys in the box, play single high. Show us you can run on that defense. Show us that you'll throw it to the flat and play outside. That's what I would expect you to do on defense early in this game. Like, feel out Baylor and see what their adjustments look like. And if they're more than happy just to try to, play, smash mouth football and run it at you and see what you can do, then I think BYU handles this game. I mean, Baylor is going to have to prove that against 8 in the box, they can either audible out of that and throw for a first down, or they can just simply run against that. And I don't believe that they can.
Blake Mangelson's going to have to be healthy for BYU to do that. But you start looking at this BYU defense, I'll carry Jack Kelly's jock anywhere he wants me to, because that kid's a baller.
Dude, he punishes you, bro.
I'm telling you, Harrison Taggart, Jacob Robinson is the best corner you've never heard of. That kid's an NFL cornerback right now. He could play on Sundays right now, I'm telling you. And you look at the Isaiah Glasker's Crew Weekly had the game of his life last week. When they needed it, I would expect to see him on the field. But you look at this defense top to bottom, and Jay Hill's defense in Provo is far exceeding expectations.
Yeah.
Because this team didn't have expectations. All right, let's get to your comments. Geoff, good to see you again, my guy. BYU has been a blast to watch, but let's not forget that they were expected to win 4 games. I think they'll exceed that, but if they end up bowl eligible, I'll consider the season a huge success. I agree.
Just one thought, though. I think the people saying that BYU was going to be a 4-win team were also people who were not well informed about what happened this offseason and about Jake Retzloff's process in improving.
And the talent influx on defense.
Yeah, so to me, 4 was always light. I even before the season, we had talked about how obviously 6 was your baseline. Bowl eligibility is your baseline this year. But I said before the season started, I could see 8 on this schedule if all things went perfect.
Well, we're going to find out in the next 5 weeks because they've got Baylor at Baylor this week, Arizona, Oak State, at UCF, at Utah, Kansas.
Yeah.
That's the script's going to be written. And we talked about it. You had to come out of the box 4-0.
And
they
that's
did.
What you've done.
I had them at 3-1 because I didn't think they were going to beat K-State. But I would expect them now to win 7 games. If this team wins 7 games, Kalani Sitake should get a lifetime contract, because I think you have legitimate issues up front on defense, and you're getting really elite linebacker and safety play to cover some of that.
Yep.
And I think that you are so injured in the running back room. And we are now understanding the depth that they have in that running back room, because the wide receivers have covered a lot of Jake Retzloff, and the wide receivers on this team have covered a lot of black eyes.
Yeah.
And they've gotten big plays when they needed them.
But Sione Moa being 15 for 75 last week, like you developed him. You've built that guy. And that's what you have to do to be successful.
And again, I'll say if LJ Martin ever stays healthy for a 6-week stretch, you're going to find out what I've been talking about. Patrick Bourne, hello. BYU is not Colorado on offense. Who said they were Colorado on offense? You have I think the best quarterback in the country right now, and Shedeur Sanders, bar none. I think their wide receivers are just as good. Travis Hunter is the best player in the country.
Yeah.
I think that you have guys on this team that are just as good as Jimmy Horn Jr.
100%.
I think you look at the depth that's in that wide receiver
Darius
room.
Lassiter is just as good as Horn Jr. There's no question about it.
Chase Roberts, Cody Epps.
Yeah. I mean, you got people talking about Chase Roberts being the best wide receiver in the conference right now.
Young tight ends. This BYU wide receiver, and this is what we get. And Patrick, I have no idea what your what you do or don't know. I have no idea what you know about BYU, but BYU is an unknown commodity across this country. You look at them as a bunch of people who don't drink caffeine and they're 30-year-olds who are married with kids. That's what you all think about BYU. And you couldn't be further from the truth on that. This is a well-prepared, well-coached, well-conditioned football team. And we have not been able to say that about BYU for the last 5 years.
I was going to say the play calling on defense has been way better this year. Way better.
Well, Jay Hill's an elite defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
He could be the defensive coordinator at any university. Delaric, Baylor is a team that will beat you up and you will lose next week from the physical game. You will.
Agreed.
Can BYU run the ball against Baylor? It's the simplest question probably in this matchup. And I think I lost some respect for Baylor with that dirty play on Cam Rising. I think that I lost a lot of respect for Baylor on that. But make no mistake that Dave Aranda, what he's not as a head coach, he is as a defensive coordinator. The guy is a really good defensive coordinator. The problem is that against BYU, it's great if you want to stop the run. The offensive line is better than you're going to give them credit for. BYU has running backs who don't mind bending your face mask.
Yeah.
And all that does is give Jake Retzloff more opportunity to throw the ball behind the linebacker. And it's what has worked for BYU. And I think we saw it in the K-State game. They didn't need the explosive offense. They got plays on defense and obviously the Kingston run back. They didn't need explosiveness on offense.
But remember when I think it's a great point. Remember when the Kingston play happened? It wasn't like it was 0-0 or they were tied. They were ahead when that happened. That kind of just sealed the game. They had gotten ahead by moving the football, getting the turnover on defense. They were beating K-State. Like, it's not taboo to say. Like, they showed up.
BYU won't run the ball, my friends. Have you watched a single game or a single snap? BYU's offense is predicated on a good run game.
So BYU will run for 160 or less. 160 in a week for rushing is pretty good.
If they run for 160 yards, you're going to get blown out.
Yeah. Like
and Patrick, I always appreciate having you on the show. You're just not up to date on BYU. The idea that you think 160 yards does not help BYU win a game, I think is sus, because are they going to get the same production they got against K-State? Well, I would hope so, because they only ran for 92 yards. And I agree that they got a lot of defense and special teams, but why would that change this week? Take out the Parker Kingston play. They still blow out K-State.
Still 31-9.
It to me, like, you don't understand how BYU's offense operates. They don't need to run the football to win the game. What they're going to do is run the football enough to win the game. If that's 92 yards, if that's 192 yards, if that's 160 yards. Because what they have now is what you have to have. You have a quarterback who can stand in the pocket and drive the ball down the field. Has he been accurate deep? He hasn't. Has he improved every game? He has. And it's not even his deep ball accuracy. He's been accurate underneath, which is where you beat a team like Baylor. Because I agree, Baylor's going to be physical up front. There's no doubt about that.
Everyone agrees with that.
There's no doubt about that. BYU embraces that. BYU's offensive line is the best offensive line that you have seen this year. BYU's offensive line is much better than Utah's offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
BYU will run the ball as much as they need to open up the passing game. And I would expect to see more RPO in this game as well.
Certainly.
I would expect to see that. And we'll see. I mean, it's Tanner Plummer, Patrick, do you even watch BYU games? Roundabout. Stats are great, but scoreboards always win. They do.
That's correct, sir. That is correct.
Ultimately. No, not all of them, Nick. A good chunk of them aren't even Mormon. Which again, This is the perception of BYU. They're,
They're going on their mission, Monty.
Huge advantage to be 30 years old with 3 kids and a wife, and you serve a 2-year church mission. Hey, man. You don't have to be LDS or Mormon to go to BYU, which is why they're winning in places like Texas and Los Angeles, and they're winning. BYU is a really good football team. They can contend for the Big 12 title. Their wide receivers need to play better than they did against SMU, so they have a balanced attack. They have got, now I know they're not as good as Oak State's wide receivers, but BYU has the best wide receiver room in the conference.
Yeah.
K-State was at BYU, a night game in altitude. K-State came in unprepared. BYU is heading to Waco in the morning in the heat. Wait for it. I think we've said all of that. But would I expect BYU to get off to a slow start? No, because what do we know about BYU? They practice at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
They're in the room at 6 a.m.
And by the way, I can personally attest to this, and I'm not a D1 college football player. When you go down to sea level after living in altitude, there's a noticeable improvement.
You have an advantage at sea level.
There is a noticeable improvement.
I think the heat's going to be.
But look at how Utah handled the heat at Oklahoma State. I mean, it was 130 degrees on the field. That was well noted on the broadcast. Showed the thermometer like a gazillion times. Like, it was pretty clear what was going on there.
Saturday is going to be at game time. It's going to be in the 70s at game time. So you're not getting to the heat of the day until about 4:45. The game will long be over by then.
Look, man, I think if you're a Baylor fan, I understand why you're defensive about this game. I get it. But I just would caution you before commenting on BYU's ability. Just get on YouTube. I'm not even asking you to watch the game. Just get on YouTube and watch what their defense does. Watch what Jake does. Watch what the offense does. Like, it takes 5 minutes to get an understanding of what this team's trying to do to you.
Yeah. And listen, I get it. I hear all the time about, that Baylor and BYU all week long doing radio interviews in Dallas, asking me about BYU. And
I'm just telling you, if you can't execute on a Hail Mary twice, I don't have confidence that you can execute for an entire game on defense.
Well, and that's the other thing that I think a lot of people forget is that it was a fluke, the 2 Hail Marys, but Shedeur had an unbelievable game. Now, is Jake Retzloff Shedeur Sanders? No, but if Jake Retzloff throws for 200, 250 yards, you're going to lose. You're going to lose. You're not going to hold Chase Roberts and Darius Lassiter down the entire game.
Yeah.
And BYU's defense is more than capable. We'll see. Proof will be in the pudding. We'll have a prediction for you tomorrow on that.
Yeah.
The thing I've never understood, and we see this pretty regularly on this show, is people will come in. Oak State last week, they'll come in and disrespect Utah to feel better about Oak State. Coming in and saying that the heat, the altitude, you're not running for 160 yards, not understanding that 160 yards means that BYU wins the game. You don't have to disrespect BYU or the opponent of your team to predict a victory for Baylor. Baylor is, and I think it is one of those things where you look at the way this line is built. Why is Baylor only 3.5 points? When you get 3 points just for being in Waco. Because BYU is a pretty darn good football team and tough to deal with. So you don't have to come in and disrespect the opponent to make yourself feel better about Baylor winning the game.
Yeah.
Baylor should win the game. It's at home. These are two, I think ultimately at the end of the year, I think Baylor will end up in the bottom of the conference. BYU will be somewhere in the middle of the conference. I think power rankings next week could be
vastly different.
Could be. But if BYU beats Baylor, I think they probably bump up to 2-3 instead of 3-4. And anybody that believes that Baylor is going to drop 30, that this is going to be a blowout game, bro, not only are they only 3.5, but I think it's 45.5. You're only expecting Baylor to score 27 points
at most.
So I if this game is 27-20, it's probably a BYU win. If Baylor's going to win this game, they're going to need to convincingly win this game. That's what I'm saying. So I think we do pretty well. We spend a lot of time before we make predictions on games.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of tape. The thing that should worry you about Baylor is they can't consistently stop you on defense, and they against better defenses, and I think we've seen it this year, I think they're going to have to run the ball to win the game. You want to talk about a team that's got to run the ball to win the game. If you think Sawyer's going to come in here and throw it on this secondary, that's a losing proposition. You need to run the ball, control the clock, keep BYU's offense off the field, tire out that defense, put them in the heat. You have to do to BYU what Utah did to Oak State.
Yes.
There needs to be a noticeable difference in the number of plays run. Anyway, I'll stop. Bears support Bears.
Right.
Calford rolling for $2 with Baylor. Baylor's not a bad pick to win this game. I don't think you're crazy at all for thinking Baylor's going to win the game. But the idea that BYU, that's going to be tough. Brandon Butler, the only way that Baylor convincingly wins is if BYU turns the ball over. If Jake Retzloff is fumbling or throwing interceptions, Baylor will win.
Does he survive the game? I mean, if they run RPO in this game and he makes a mistake that way, I mean, that's asking to take a big hit. And I think we've seen Baylor's propensity to hit quarterbacks. So
yeah, I think Baylor is. I really hope we get a clean football game. That Baylor play on Cam Rising, it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable, in my opinion. 28-21 Cougs. Okay. Delaric, I'm a Baylor fan, but it's a coin toss. At best, BYU most likely wins, I would agree. Couldn't tell from all the BYU love, Monty. I don't. And now we're a BYU show.
Apparently.
We fully matriculated.
And this is the same guy who said 4 comments ago that he didn't disrespect BYU. Look, man,
I'm a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah. If there is such a thing right now.
Our largest audience is the state of Texas and
Phoenix
very closely the state of Utah.
Yeah.
Our largest singular city, I think, is still Salt Lake City, where we're doing 300,000-400,000 a month in Salt Lake City. But Dallas is very close. Phoenix is very close. Miami, Tampa, South Florida, very close. Phoenix. I don't have an allegiance. I think anybody who watches this show knows I am not a BYU fan. I'm not a Utah fan. If I'm a fan of anything, and it's tough to be, it's Notre Dame. I have no delusions of grandeur. The advantage that I have, Oak State fan, as you found out last week, I don't have to root for Utah or Oak State. I can just tell you what I think is going to happen in the game. I don't have to root for BYU or Baylor. I can tell you what I think is going to happen in the game. And I've seen extensive amounts of Baylor and BYU this year. In preparing for that Utah-Baylor game and preparing for BYU against K-State, I've watched every snap of BYU football probably 3 times this year.
Yeah.
I just happen to know, and it's why I think we got the Oak State matchup to the T. We'll have a prediction tomorrow. You can be a Notre Dame fan and still love on another team, but I don't. I'm a masochist like that. I'm a Chicago Bears fan. I don't really have a second NFL team.
I think, dude, you're just salty about the fact that we're not saying that Baylor is outright better.
You are completely wrong. He says BYU's offensive receivers. That's the best wide because you don't know. Anybody that tell me you don't know without telling me you don't know. The idea that I'm kissing BYU's offense, their receivers kissing their ass, tells me that you haven't seen a single snap of BYU wide receiver play. Because Darius Lassiter, you don't know who Chase Roberts is. Do you understand the catches, the touchdown last week in the corner of the end zone to Chase Roberts?
Yeah.
It may have been a dime. You know how difficult that catch is? There is not. I'm telling you, Like the BYU's defense.
That's what I mean. It's an emotional take.
It's an emotional take.
You haven't, it's clear to me through what you're saying, you haven't watched the film, man.
Yeah. Tanner, everyone knows this is a Bishop, or Jared. Everyone knows this is a Bishop Sycamore show.
Damn right it is.
Exactly right. Boyd Lake, as opposed to BYU's defensive receivers.
I didn't want to be a jerk.
I just don't. I wish people could be unemotional about their sports takes, and you can't be. The advantage, and I say this all the time on the show, the advantage I have is that I've covered teams, so I am preconditioned not to be emotional about outcomes. I'm analytical about outcomes of sporting events. I think the Cubs winning the World Series in 2016 was absolutely, I was emotionless. I was stunned. Other than that, I don't really have a great moment in my sports fandom.
Yeah, the Blackhawks run.
The Blackhawks, that's right. I cried when the Blackhawks won the Cup. That's true. But the Bears are terrible and have been.
Garbo.
Notre Dame's been terrible and has been. The Chicago Bulls, what else do I have to say about that?
It's garbage.
The Cubs don't spend money. What else do I have to say about that?
Trading Caruso for a lawn chair. Thanks.
I just think it's interesting that you can't just roll up without knowing how good the secondary at BYU is, or the wide receivers, and then say that I'm kissing their ass. I haven't kissed their ass at all.
Yeah, it's just not a great take.
I mean, yes, Jake Retzloff used to be on the show every week in the summer.
Yeah.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
Have I been critical of him? I have.
We're critical of him today. He's got a propensity to turn the football over. Like we've actually had arguments on this show this season about whether those were bad interceptions or good interceptions, if there is such a thing. Like, I mean, we've had it out.
Welcome to the nightmare. I'm a diehard Knights fan, but I also am a realist when it comes to expectations of all teams I root for. You have to be.
Yeah, and I didn't appreciate this before. Like, obviously, we've been doing the show a long, long time now, right? Like going on like 10 years or whatever it is. Like we've been doing this. But before that, I didn't have an appreciation for how easy it is just to go on YouTube and watch highlights and not watch them as a fan. Just watch them like, hey, like what did they do on the defensive line on that play? Like what
happened on the Hail Mary?
What happened on the Hail Mary? Like, like you can go and watch that stuff.
And I encourage you to go watch BYU's tape on YouTube because it's all out there. Go watch Darius Lassiter run a route. Go watch Chase Roberts run a route. Go watch the RPO, Jake Retzloff's RPO pitches. The RPO to Miles Davis against SMU, I think it was.
Yeah. Broke it up the sideline there.
That is as well executed of an RPO play as I think I've ever seen. And I've seen it 50 times now. But okay.
Is what it is, man.
It's all good. I'm not even upset about it.
Yeah.
Cue balls support cue balls for $2. Hey, look at you. Calford with another $5.
Did Calford get this is what happened to Sluka. Calford went in there and took that $100,000 and is now paying for Monty Show memberships with it.
Right. Yeah. Tanner Plummer, Patrick, you need to watch some BYU tape in a very bad way. I agree. To which Patrick says, Tanner Plummer, K-State, I picked BYU for obvious reasons, but against SMU, they beat a pretty good offense there. So we'll see. I think against SMU, it is the worst game of Jake Retzloff's football career. Not his college career or his BYU career. That's his poorly, because you can also, which we did before he started coming on the show, go watch Jake Retzloff's junior college tape on YouTube.
Yeah.
Dude, it's unbelievable. His high school highlight tape, oh my God. I think he has a huddle tape. But you go watch the SMU Jake Retzloff tape, it's terrible. It's one of the worst games I've ever seen him play.
He had moments.
Yes, he did.
That led to the win, but it was not overall great film to watch.
Yeah, I think it's Prize Picks and Calamony. I love it. I love it. Well, Marty, you're a Texas fan. Yeah, remember last year when everybody's like, "This is a Texas Longhorn show." Remember that?
What's it like to be a Tennessee fan?
I know.
I know that's a new.
But
thing
they're not a
you.
blue blood.
Yeah.
I love it that everybody's like, "You're a BYU fan, Monty. Fat old Mormon. You're dying soon." Remember that guy who came in? Oh, you're just a fat old Mormon. Guilty as charged.
One too many cougar tails.
I'm not fat anymore. I'm not Mormon, and I'm not dying soon. But other than that, I'm a fat old Mormon. You nailed it. I just think it's funny. People get so emotional. Cody Hansen, do you think we'll see a BYU-Utah championship game? I don't.
No, and that's the thing where you got to temper expectations. I like I said, and I'm not coming off of it. I think this team's riding a high wave to start the year. I think they're 4-0 and they're feeling great.
Their opponents
is awesome.
Their opponents,
yeah.
With all due respect to K-State, look at who BYU has played.
Yeah.
You start getting into the meat of their schedule.
8 wins is the top of the mountain. What do I think is going to happen? I think 6 is what's going to happen, and I think you're going to fall off the wagon to end the year
and
again.
The Oak State game now feels much more winnable in Provo.
Right.
But I think BYU will finish middle of the table in the Big 12, which is a massive step up for them.
Yes, it is.
Massive step. And I think, Cody, you know what the biggest difference for me is? I think, as I said earlier, not to be redundant, it's not the 1s and 2s. The 1s and 2s at BYU and Utah are wildly talented. The 3s and 4 at Utah are just better.
Yeah.
They're just better. They're deeper. They're more prepared.
Now, to your comment here, they may not play in the Big 12 championship game, but the BYU-Utah game has a chance here today.
Yes, sir.
To decide who's in the Big 12 championship game. So from that standpoint, I think the Holy War this year is going to be one of the best games that we've
ever seen.
Like
ever.
Like better than what was it? Jaron Hall played in that game last. I can't remember if that was Zach or Jaron, but
back to Harleen.
Yeah, like better than those games, dude.
November 9th. Dude.
Yeah.
I'm going to get waxed before that game. That is going to be a game for the ages. Retzloff is a Quaker among soakers. Okay.
Wow.
Retzloff was worse against Iowa State last year, in my opinion. I don't think he was worse because he wasn't prepared for that game. Now he's got the entire playbook and audibles. They allow him to call plays. He knows exactly what the defense is trying to do to him. He's in command of the defense and the offense.
Yeah.
The expectations were lower last year. They're much higher this year. And that SMU game was horrendous.
Yeah.
Horrendous. UW fan Jim, go watch a Dunze's tape and tell me he can't run all the routes.
Yeah, right. Garbo.
If you're a Texas fan this year, you won't be wrong much. Mr. Preston, I love me some Cougars. Stay hard.
Stay hard.
That's exactly right. I disagree, Jake. I think BYU is winning 7-8 games. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, and if they do, that's great, right? But I think that you got to show me, okay, beat Baylor, and then what do they have? Arizona, then Oklahoma State. Like that, those 3 games, like that's a tough stretch for BYU. But for a team that is going to overachieve, you got to win those games. So, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. It is. It's going to be fun. Paco. Monty needs to catch a game at DKR, then hit the taco scene in Austin. Dude, I really wanted to come to the Georgia game this year. It just didn't line up. I would love to come to Austin. Caleb Aylmore, what's up, my guy? Are you ready for tonight's NFL game? I got Singletary on my fantasy team, so I hope Dallas is cheeks on defense again.
Dallas will win this game by 10, bro. I think.
Singletary had the game of his giant career last week. I think this is a really big game for Dallas. I would expect CeeDee Lamb to have. If you're a daily fantasy player, take CeeDee Lamb because Don't forget. Calford for $5. Don't forget you also eat pepperoni and pineapple pizza dipped in blue cheese, Manny. Look, Manny,
stay hard.
That's a first Manny bomb. Oh, God, blue cheese is disgusting.
All right, we gotta go.
It's terrible. All right, this is gonna be very interesting. CeeDee Lamb is getting the squeaky wheel treatment tonight. I think he is.
Yeah.
I think he is. The Monty Show is always presented by our good friends at The Advocates, theadvocates.com. All you get is quality, risk-free legal advice. 24/7, 365, and it won't cost you time. Theadvocates.com. Say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.